This will be a briefer introduction, but for those who are new in the class and for those who are online watching, today we have with us what we like to call celebrity astrologer, Lynne Palmer. And Lynne has been doing this since 1957. She is Church of Light trained, which is something we love. Just because of that, Lynne has actually been doing this for a very long time, since I was 2 years old. So she has tremendous experience. She has a lot of cases to speak from, water under the bridge, as we might call it, and we're very privileged to have Lynne here. I believe the title of this is The Disease Cancer.
Right.
And I forget the rest.
That's it.
It's Antidotes. So hopefully I got this title correct.
Yes, you do.
And Lynne
But the
Palmer.
other worked good.
I thought so.
I
just like that word.
No, because the loving and the understanding worked good
They just
together.
went hand in glove.
went hand in glove. See how us Sagittarians.
Yes. Sagittarians, another thing to add to your astrological list, the Sagittarians, as Lee Riffle described it, belong to a mutual admiration society.
Oh yeah, I remember Lee Riffle. Okay, the disease cancer. That's the easiest thing to see in a chart, actually, innately and in the predisposition and the progressed aspects. I think, to me, it's the easiest disease to see. And there are different planets involved, mainly 4. Mars, and I want to say that Dr. Kelly was an expert. He wrote a very good book. Maybe you can go online and get the book. It's called One Answer to Cancer, K-E-L-L-E-Y. And that book, he was jailed for the book. I mean, when he went out for the book, but people could send their blood tests down to him. He was in Texas, and one girl sent his blood test to him. He could tell from a blood test from a finger or wherever the blood test was taken. He could tell every part of the body where there was cancer and how long it had been there. And here, they didn't like that, and I remember Dr. Pounds, he was president of AFA, he was a homeopathic doctor, and he told me at one time when we were talking about it, he said because, where they give biopsies spread cancer. So he said that if they had this blood test done, the American, and they had all his alternative methods for healing out there and people getting well, the cancer research would be out of business and wouldn't be getting any funding, which made sense. That was 30 years or so ago that he told me that. So Dr. Kelly is an expert. So I'm going to quote him. I'm going to give you some things from his book and diet and nutritional things, as well as using astrology and the Church of Light. Okay, the main thing he found was that
Could we actually get you to move over
I was
one where,
I misunderstood you.
yeah,
Okay.
we just realized that was in the
And I
camera.
was wanting to move your hand with your head.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. Anyway, he found that it was Mars isn't what he didn't know Mars. He was a Capricorn, by the way. He found that it's a protein metabolism problem was one of the main causes of cancer. Okay, which would be Mars, or it can also be Pluto too involved. And all these charts, when you see the charts, you will see by progression all of them with Mars progressed bad aspects. And he had I'm going to give you all of the different vitamins. I'm going to give you all of the different things to help reduce tumors and growths and everything. There's all kinds of things out there, alternative methods. And Mars is meat, of course, and chicken. and according to him, it had too many hormones when they injected it. But even if it's free range or anything like that, it still has, if a Mars progression is in, a discordant aspect, and these other planets are involved also, you still have to watch out for getting cancer, you know. But Mars is the protein part. And, you know, and a lot of people hold grudges. And, you know, when you hold grudges and you want revenge, you know, Scorpio style, then you have to watch.
Double Scorpio.
I know. I was looking at her and Patrick over there. But no, they're spiritual. But I hope. But when you hold the grudge in, you see Mars energy, of course. 6 signs can hold grudges. 2 Taurus too can be bad. But the Mars aspect, when you get angry and you hold all that in, that's in, I think, Stellar Healing or some of the Church and Life books has all of this stuff in it. And Albert, or C.C. Zane, listed the different planets and the vitamins you needed with those planets. I updated that with my Astro Guide to Nutrition and Vitamin book, and now I could upgrade that book. That book's been out for years, but since then I have found out so many more vitamins and things. But American Federation of Astrologers publishes that book, but I upgraded it with the therapeutic value and what foods were in each one and the whole thing. So Mars, there is a, well, I won't give you the pills right now. I'll give you all of the vitamins stuff later. So it's a protein digestion problem. Meat is the worst. Chicken comes second, and fish comes in third place. Okay, being bad, because people with that can't digest the protein. Okay, and the other part of cancer, the main part, is negativity. And it, you know, every time, if you have a bad Saturn progression in, or even a transit with Saturn discordant, every time you get negative, you change the chemistry in your body. It changes. And that's the Saturn discord. And it's negativity, depression, worry, feeling sorry for yourself, lonely, the blues, and oh, what's going to happen to me, and you wallow in self-pity, and all of the Saturn negative thoughts. And that is in every single cancer chart. One of the main aspects I've noticed in a lot of them is, and by progression, and I've seen so many clients with it and tried to help them, is a Sun-Saturn square or semi-square or something between in the natal chart, or by progression coming in. I had a client in New York. She was a Capricorn. She got cancer. So, and I told her different vitamins to take for the afflicted planets. But she went whole hog, and she had a table that long and about that wide filled with vitamins. And there was a doctor, a chiropractor in New York. He did what they call the best treatment, bioenergizer synchronization technique. And he went to her house with, she said, we had him come over to her house. He was going to test her, putting the vitamins over her, each vitamin over her rather than a pendulum, and because that would be more effective. So she had all these, she had like 3 or 4 types of vitamin E. She did not have a Venus discordant aspect in her chart by progression. And I said, you don't need all of these E, you don't need any of this E, you don't need it. So anyway, so I sat there, and he came over, and he did one bite at a time, the whole table, and she was laying down on the couch. She didn't know what he was doing. And so when he'd get to one, you don't need it, what was that? Oh, it was vitamin E. So it showed that the chart was right. She did not need E. None of the E's that he tested her with came out, but the other vitamins did. So he started treating her with this bioenergizer technique, which was no cracking, but you place different parts of the body under the arm. There's different parts of your body, and you press here and you press there. And he did miracle cures. He was a Taurus with Scorpio rising. Scorpio's a real healer, you know, or Pluto in the first house can be a healer too. So his hands would be hot as could be. So he was getting her well. She ended up taking the vitamins. There were a lot of them to take. At that time, I didn't know about what I know about now. You know, the tumor reducing and some of those that are out now. So she took them all, and between taking the vitamins, her treatment, and I tried to get her to think positive, you know, and she was doing pretty good there for a while. It was getting better. And then she got tired all of a sudden taking all of the vitamins. So she quit and went to a Chinese doctor who gave her a few herbs to take, and she died. She had a Sun square Saturn by progression, and it was with the 8th house. And she died because she was doing well until she quit the vitamins. You need nutrition in your body. You need to get that in your system. She didn't do it. So I find that Saturn in the first house too, a lot of people with Saturn in the first house, sometimes Capricorn rising, but not in every case. Depends upon the aspects, you know, the astrodides and all, the discord. They can get very self-centered on their own physical body. I know 2 people with Saturn in the first house, and they live in fear. I mean, they're so afraid of every little tiny thing going to happen. They just came back from having sheep gland injections of their body, thinking that they won't get ill or have health problems with that. And they're both in their, well, one's in the 70s, I think one's in the 80 now. And they go to all kinds of weird places and do weird things. I try to get them to take the vitamins and all that, but they don't. But they have fear in a car if you even speed or drive a little fast. Oh, they're screaming and carrying on. They're so, I have never seen 2 people so fearful of injury to their physical body. And that's Saturn in the first house. One is negative, the other one uses her energy with work. The other one doesn't work, so her negativity manifests all the time. And she doesn't think she's negative. So anyway, they have a problem. But I see a lot of these charts have Saturn in the first. A lot of them have Saturn, Capricorn on the cusp of the 8th, or Aquarius on the cusp of the 8th. Doesn't mean that you have it there, you're going to die of cancer. But cancer's a painful death. Saturn's a painful planet. You know, it's pain. And it's suffering and pain. And as I say, it can be a slow, long one. Yes.
What do you find with, like, in a natal chart with Saturn opposing Mars?
What?
What do you find with what you're talking about with Saturn in a natal chart opposing Mars?
Well, that can be bad too. It depends. We're going to get into all of the planets. There's more. I've got a lot to tell you today.
Okay.
We may go over time. I usually do. Anyway, so I may go under time too. But the Saturn, it can be very negative. So when you see a natal chart or a progressed chart, you look and see if there's any Saturn progressions in, especially to the sun being the vitality gets down. Now, if your vitality gets depleted and down, it's hard to be positive in your thoughts, you know. Well, there are vitamins to take, and I can tell you all the pep-up vitamins. If you have the sun afflicted to take, I'll tell you now because I may forget later. It's not in the rest. Wasn't meant to tell you all of that today. Then I'll tell you the pep-up vitamins. The best one is chlorella. That is CHLORELLA. And there's only one good brand of chlorella. In this state, you can't buy it in a health store. And only California health stores, and there's 2 in Las Vegas that carry it. That's all. The rest, you go online to vitaminlife.com. I understand they're in Seattle. And you order it and they ship it to you. It's less expensive than all the ones in the health food store. And it's a cracked cell chlorella. And you take it, it's ocean algae. You take it on an empty stomach. And I take 2,500 units every day when I wake up so I can go flying through the day. And but it contains in it vitamin A, B2, B12, chlorophyll, and iron. And it's a food, even though it's in a tablet form. It comes in 1,000 milligram, and it comes in 500 milligram. So if you take chlorella, it's cracked cell, and the company that puts it out is called Lifetime. At the top, it used to be Tung Hai, T-U-N-G, and then H-A-I, but it's made in the United States, not China. And then underneath Lifetime on the new label, they have Tung Hai, because everybody used to call in and ask for Tung Hai chlorella. And it's very effective, and you take it, and I also found out from my surgeon, one time I asked him when I was an outpatient if I could, when I went home that day, could I take my chlorella? And he said to me, yes, and you will heal faster. This heals so fast on people. I cannot tell you how fast. I have heard all kinds of cases of where it healed. I mean, I had cataract surgery last year, and I had it on the decrease of the moon, which would be a slow time to heal. But my Mars aspects, my transits were good that day. And so I went for it because of the good aspects in. So I went for it. I knew I wouldn't heal fast. I was taking chlorella beforehand and after, and I was healed within a day or two. I couldn't get over it. And here I'm doing it on the decrease of the moon. I had surgery on the decrease of the moon to heal fast. That's slow healing from the new moon to the full moon. If you have surgery, you will heal faster. From full moon to the new moon, you heal slower. It takes longer to heal. I had good aspects in, so I didn't care if I didn't heal fast. I'd rather have good Mars and good energy aspects, so I did. But I healed fast because I was taking the chlorella. And I was taking chlorella for energy. And then my doctor told me it was the healing. My Scorpio doctor said, you'll heal fast. Well, he's right. You heal fast on that. So it's a very good thing to take. So if people that have bad sun afflictions, and especially with Saturn, if you can start taking it before a Sun-Saturn comes up, then you can offset the negativity and the depletion of the physical vitality that the sun is, and it will pep you up, and you'll have the energy, to overcome the negativity, and then you can fight it. But if you don't have the energy and you can't fight that, it's harder to fight. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's harder to do. But this Saturn, as I say, it doesn't mean that you're going to get it. I'm going to go more into all of these things, but it does cause a problem. Now, the other planet involved is Neptune. Neptune is the poisons, toxic poisons in the body. So you will always see Neptune aspects by progression in people's charts. When I see it, I tell them to go get colonic irrigations, colon cleanse, Nowadays, colonics are given all over the United States. It's amazing. You look in the telephone directory, which they still have telephone directories under colon therapy, and you see colonic places, and they have them all over. And usually, it's good to get 6 of them, one every 3 days, because the first one gets the garbage from the last few days out. By the time you get to the 6th one, it takes garbage that's been in your system maybe 20, 30 years out. It pulls it out. Because you see, if you keep your colon clean, you can get rid of almost every illness, because the illness is the colon gets putrefied, and then that fecal matter goes to different, like if Libra's bad in your chart, it's going to go to the Libra area, the ovaries. And if some other area is bad, the bladder or something, it's going to go to that. It goes to the different parts. But the colonic will clean all that out if you get the 6, and then after that, 1 a month. But I had a lot of people that have had cancer. I had a girl call me one time. I didn't know her. I had a client. Well, she became a client. But I had somebody booked for a reading on a Monday. And on Friday, she called me on the phone Friday morning. She said, I can't come. I have cancer, and they want to operate on me on Monday. Now, I didn't even know her, so I was taking a chance. And I said, well, could you maybe get a colonic, and maybe you won't have to have the surgery. I hadn't even done her chart yet, I hadn't gotten it ready. And so she said, I gave her the number of a colonic place. She called, they had a cancellation. she got in, and she went, and they told her about the Dr. Kelly book, One Answer to Cancer. So I found out about the book from her. And then they told her she could send her blood down to Dr. Kelly and all that. So she did that, and she did what's in the detoxing that he has in his book, and she did the diet. She went to the health store when she left there, got the book, went around and got all the stuff in his book to eat and all of the stuff. And she went back. She sent her blood down. Anyway, at that time, you could send the blood to him. So when she got back, so she did the whole diet and the colonics, the whole bit. And then about a month later, she went in for a test in New York City, and she didn't have the cancer. She had pancreatic cancer, too. She went in and she didn't have cancer anymore. It was gone. So she went back to the Roosevelt Hospital doctor, and she wanted to tell him about Dr. Kelly and all the things she'd done. So she started to tell him, and he threw her out, didn't want to hear any of it. But she was well and cured, and she didn't get cancer back. Years and years went by, and she became my client. She never got cancer back. But at that time, he had a pill that you could take. Now you could not get it on the market. You could not get it. She had to cut out meat, of course, and all that. And to counteract it was called pancreatin, which now you can buy, which I will tell you later, there's brands, but at that time it was put out by Bioban, and you had to have a prescription for it. So she got the prescription, and she took it, and that was fine. And then my dog got cancer that I had, and so I wrote to Dr. Kelly a letter, but I took the dog off of meat, and I did give the dog chicken because I didn't know that chicken was bad at that point. I hadn't learned all that. So I put the dog on the chicken diet, and anyway, Dr. Kelly, the day after my dog died, Dr. Kelly's letter came to me, and he said, with animals, you don't put them on the same diet as you do with human beings. You give them the meat, but it was too late. But then I did learn about animals and that, and he wrote me a very nice letter, So anyway, and another friend of mine, I went to San Francisco to see one time. She was like 30, 40 years older than me, and she says, oh, you've come to bury me. And I says, bury you? Why? What's wrong? I have breast cancer. And I says, when I was 12 years old, I knew her, and she, at that time, used to get colonic irrigations. That's the first time I ever heard of colonics. And I said to her, well, why don't you go get colonics? You used to get them when I was 12 years old, and 13 and 14, you always was getting colonics in San Diego. I said, you told me about them. That's where I first heard about colonics. She says, oh, I forgot about them. She found a place in San Francisco. The woman there gave her 2-hour colonics every single, usually it's 45 minutes to an hour, every single day for a couple of weeks. She went back, the lump on the breast, she didn't feel it anymore. And she went on the Dr. Kelly, you could get his book, she got the book, took the vitamins, ate the diet on there, which I will give you all the diet and everything later. And she went on it, and she went back to the doctor, and he said, well, when are we going to operate? And she took her bra off, and he examined. He said, well, what did you do? She says, I've got my secret. And she wouldn't tell him because she thought maybe the colonic person would get into trouble. So she didn't tell him what she had done. But she was cured and never had it again. She died at 94. And she was in her 70s at that point. Never got cancer again. That was it. So these things do work. But sometimes they're not. A person already has had cancer for a long time, it's harder to get rid of it with all of these things that I'm going to tell you about. But you can also take some of these things that I'm going to tell you about as a preventative too, Anyway, so Neptune is the poisons in the system, and there is a lot of people can't have a colonic place. There used to be a place, some health food stores carry a thing called colon cleanser. And that's good. It's not as good as colonic or as fast, but that would be something else to think about. See, if you can keep the poisons out of your system, the toxic poisons out, keep your colon clean, that will help a lot, with any illness. It's a preventative. Now, that's the other planet involved. And another planet involved is Jupiter, because Jupiter is growth, and cancer can grow. And tumors are ruled by Jupiter. So tumors are ruled, and when you have Jupiter afflicted, you can overdo things to excess, and you should eat in moderation. That's one way to use Jupiter. And I'm going to give you later on all the things, and you have to avoid the fats, but I'm going to give you all of the vitamins, and I'm going to give you all the cancer stuff later. But meanwhile, when Jupiter is afflicted, you also have to watch your cholesterol. And there is something very good. My surgeon doctor told me about it, and it reduces cholesterol faster than Lipitor or any of the medical things can reduce it, and there's no side effects. It's a strange name, but it's 3 letters, 3 words. But I'm going to tell you in a minute, but it's a fruit that comes from Asia, and it's called red yeast, Y-E-A-S-T, rice. Mm-hmm. That reduces cholesterol. I've known people that had their cholesterol up to 200 and something, and in 1 month they had it down to 160. Mm-hmm. It's very fast, and the health stores will tell you that's what it's for. I take it for preventative, because I eat a lot of fatty food. And I don't have Jupiter afflicted, but I still like some of the tasty cholesterol foods, But if you, that red yeast rice is good, but a lot of people have a problem with the liver when they take that too, And I think somebody was telling me that they saw somebody on TV, I don't know who it was, Bill somebody that has a show. He was taking the red yeast rice, and it did damage to his liver. And so there are pills to counteract that for the liver. Now I'm getting, but these liver pills are good because they can also help prevent the cancer, You can keep your liver in good shape also, that will help prevent the cancer too, or help it if you have it. And there's 2 very good tablets from the health food store. One is put out by Himalaya, and it's called Liver Care. It's better than Thistlene. Thistlene protects the liver. This helps cure the liver and cleanse it. And milk thistle's good, but they're weak things. Himalaya's Liver Care is better. And then there's something else that I was taking for years, because there's a very good book out called Eat Right for Your Type. And if you're, in that book, the A's are have to watch cancer. They're the vegetarians of the blood system. And the O's are the meat eaters, So it works. And in the book it said artichokes were highly beneficial for an A. And I used to wonder why I'd eat an artichoke in New York City and get high. I'd get all high, and I thought, it must have iron or something in it I need. Well, it was highly beneficial. So then when I saw they had artichoke extract at the health food store, I started taking it, and on the label at that time it said, for digestion. So I got it, thinking, well, good. Now they don't have that brand anymore. I had to get a new brand called Enzymatic. And on the bottle, it doesn't say anything about digestion. And it says gallbladder and liver. So I didn't know that it was for the gallbladder and liver. As I say, I keep learning new things all the time. I could put in my books and stuff. So if you have a Jupiter afflicted, get all these things. They won't hurt you. They're just supplements, You just swallow them. Anyway, so I got a little off there on that. All right, now with the cancer. We're going to use our Neptunes now. I was going to make charts. It would have been a lot of charts to pass out and show you, and I didn't know how many people knew astrology and symbols and everything else. and I see you all know it now. So I'm going to let you use your Neptune imagination. That's where we'll use a good Neptune. And I'm going to give you the aspects involving these Cancer people. The first one is Farrah Fawcett. Okay? Now, Saturn co-rules her 8th house, but it was in her 2nd house in the natal chart. It also ruled her 7th and 9th houses because Capricorn's on the cusp and Aquarius is on the 9th cusp, you know. So when Saturn was, she has an intercepted sign. She had Cancer is her natal ascendant, was Cancer. And with Saturn ruling her 7th house, makes a lot of bad aspects. Now I'm going to tell you another one of my stories, true story. You know, she never married Ryan O'Neal. You know, I was writing a book for Del Horoscope called Prosperity Signs, and I sent out a letter. I had these movie stars' names, so I sent out a letter asking how they used their sun sign on the good and bad side. So I sent one to Ryan O'Neal. So he answered me and told me how he used his Taurus sun sign. That was it. And I sent him a thank you letter and put him in the book. And then a while went by, and this guy called me on the phone with a phony name. And I'd never seen Ryan O'Neal in a movie, so I didn't know what he looked like. So, but I used his chart in class all the time teaching, so I knew the chart. So this guy calls on the chart, and I looked at it. I said, oh, it's a chart like Ryan O'Neal's, you know. So he came for the reading, and he said to me, I said, what do you do? He says, oh, I'm an actor. So I looked at his chart, and I says, well, you don't have anything in the House of Fame, but that doesn't mean you can't be famous. Your chart looks like Ryan O'Neal's chart. And I said, he's famous, so you don't have to worry about it. He didn't blink an eyelash. He didn't say, and I just went on talking and gave him the reading. And as he left, I have a lot of movie star and celebrity 8x10 glosses they signed by my door, going out the door. So he was going out the door, and he looked at me, and he says, if I'm famous, would you put my picture up there? And I says, yeah, send me your picture when you become famous. but in the reading, he had Cancer rising like Farrah Fawcett. So I told him that unless he changed his attitude, people with Cancer rising have Saturn ruling the 7th. And I've seen more people get cancer from a bad marriage, from suffering and negativity with a partner and coldness, or their attitude is wrong. And I've seen more people get cancer from that. And so I told him, I said, you should never marry. Your 5th house is good. Your 7th is bad. And that was why, later when I found out it was Ryan O'Neal, that's why he never married her. Then she had the same chart. They were both Cancer rising, but I didn't know that was Ryan O'Neal. So 2 weeks later, 2 pictures came in the mail to Lynne, fondly Ryan. I said, oh my God, that was Ryan O'Neal. And I remembered what I'd said to him. I was so embarrassed. And then a client of mine came in. She had been a model. She says, oh, Ryan O'Neal's been here. I had put his picture up. And I told her what happened, because she used to date him. And she says, he's not recognizable. Well, I had never seen him in a movie. So, and I don't recognize movie stars. You know, one time I was sitting with Frank Sinatra, and my boyfriend and I were sitting with Sinatra, and, you know, Maureen O'Sullivan was there, Mia Farrow's mother, who did the Tarzan movies, and sitting next to me was Danny Kaye's ex-wife, Sylvia Fine, and there were other people at the table. And when we came in, Frank introduced me to everybody by first names, you know, this guy sitting next to him. I didn't recognize him. I'd never seen him in a movie. I didn't know who he was. It just said Jack. That was all. And then later on, they were talking and carrying on. And so I whispered to my boyfriend, Joey Lewis, I said, who is that Jack guy? He says, that's Jack Lemmon. But I don't recognize people, you know, and so I didn't recognize Ryan O'Neal either. And I'm sitting right there with the other one and sitting with Ryan O'Neal. Later I saw him in movies, but I didn't know who they were. Anyway, so the thing is, So I'm sure that was why he never married her, because I gave him a real talk about the negativity and how he could get depressed, and he did tell me he had been married and how he did suffer with all those Saturn things, but I didn't know that was Brian O'Neill, but he told me the whole thing. So anyway, so natally, this is her natal aspects in her natal chart with Saturn. She had Saturn opposition her Sun, semi-sextile her Moon, parallel her Venus, opposition and parallel her Mars, okay, semi-squared Uranus, sextile Neptune, conjunct Pluto, sesquisquare the MC, and semi-sextile the Ascendant, and with the Astrodites, Saturn came out as her worst planet, okay? And it came out very dominant too. So anyway, and her other bad aspects, she had Mars, Sun, and Mercury all in Aquarius in the 8th house in her natal chart. But Capricorn was on the cusp. And by progression, she got cancer. She finally died. And at the time she died, and the year beforehand, I did her chart ahead of time to look at it. She had the progressed Mercury, with sesquisquare the Saturn by progression, square the natal Uranus, setting off the trine in the natal chart. There's the Saturn. Plus she had the progressed Saturn was parallel her natal Mars, setting off the opposition in parallel. And the natal Saturn was in a parallel progressed MC was in. That's the Saturn energy. Now the Mars part. Progressed Mars was square her natal Venus, setting off a parallel. Progressed Mars was parallel Neptune, parallel natal and progressed, and sesquisquare Pluto, setting off an opposition between Mars and Pluto, setting off a trine with the Neptune. And I use, by progression, William Drake, that was his name?
Mm-hmm.
From,
yeah.
I use his progression, before Astrodites, he used a percentage system, and I use his percentage system in all of my progressed reading charts. In other words, her progressed Mars, parallel Neptune, would be 75% discordant. And the natal chart, it set off a trine, which would be 80% harmonious. But the parallel is something that builds as it goes on. So if you're eating meat, as time goes by, and it's with Neptune, you're building up that toxic poison in the body with all of that meat. The parallel does it over a long period of time. It's not going to be bing, bam, boom. But the sesquisquare between Mars and Pluto would be fast. Any other aspect other than the parallel. So that is the Mars part. Now the Neptune, I gave you that one with Neptune. Also her progressed ascendant was in a semi-square to her natal Neptune. I would say that's 45% discordant with that system until Paul gets finished with the progressed Astrodites. Meanwhile, it set off a square, which would be 80% discordant, on the natal chart. She had a progressed Neptune, sesquisquare, her progressed MC. And Jupiter, she had progressed ascendant, was square her natal and progressed Jupiter. So there's the Mars, the Jupiter, the Saturn, and the Neptune. So that was the end of her. Now next we're going to look at visualize Ida Lupino. Okay. So Saturn Saturn was in her 10th house. Nicole ruled her 4th house of the home. Her natal aspects with Saturn. She had Saturn opposition the Sun, conjunct Neptune, and parallel it, and parallel Pluto. And with the Astrodites, Saturn came out as her worst planet. Okay. By progression, she had in Mercury, the progressed Mercury was square her progressed Saturn. Progressed Saturn was parallel Saturn natal, parallel Neptune, parallel Pluto. All building up. Progressed Neptune was parallel her natal Saturn. Progressed Pluto was parallel her natal Saturn. So the Saturn-Neptune set off the natal conjunction in parallel. Okay, that's the Saturn. and I gave you the Neptune. Now, with Mars, the Mars aspect she had was the Sun progressed was in conjunct Mars, setting off a sesquisquare to Mars. That was the only progressed Mars aspect. But it could have, you see, Cancer doesn't sometimes develop overnight. It comes, and I don't know, I don't know if she was a vegetarian or not, but you can still get Cancer being a vegetarian, you know. So then the Jupiter she had, her progressed Jupiter was semi-square her natal MC for the growth. And that was what she had in by progression. And she said that she knew she had cancer, and she didn't mind if she died because she was going to see the husband who had died before her. Remember, Howard Duff was his name. They did a TV show together, and she was going to see him on the other side. So it didn't bother her to go on and over. You know, she had that attitude. Now the next one is a person, she was a client of mine, and I could see the cancer coming way before she was diagnosed because she was in Florida. I talked to her on the phone all the time. She was so negative, all the time negative, wanted to die. She said, I want to die, and just negative, and I tried talking to her. I tried to get her to go for colonics. She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't take the vitamins, the supplements, and at that time I knew the pills to reduce tumors, even though she hadn't been diagnosed yet. I was doing everything to prevent that, you know. Of course, I'm not supposed to give medical advice, but I can say what, in my opinion, I would take if it was me, you know, which I did that way. That's the way to do that, you know. And this is what she had in another work. Saturn ruled her 7th house, 8th house, 9th house, and 10th house. Was in the 7th house natally. It had progressed into the 8th house, and anyway, in Capricorn. Her natal aspects, Saturn parallel Mercury, Saturn parallel Mars, Saturn square Uranus, Saturn trine Neptune, Saturn parallel Pluto, Saturn semi-square the MC, Saturn parallel the Ascendant. With the Astrodites, it came out as the 3rd worst planet. Now, by progression, she had in the progressed Saturn and Mars were in a semi-sext house, setting off a natal parallel. So that's 20% the semi-sextile. The natal parallel gets 75% discord, you know, Mars, Saturn. She had progressed Pluto parallel natal Mars, setting off a sesquisquare in parallel. Progressed Saturn parallel the natal Mars, setting off a parallel. Progressed Saturn parallel Jupiter. Progressed Saturn square progressed Uranus. Parallel natal and progressed Pluto. Natal Saturn and a parallel with the progressed Pluto, setting off a parallel. The natal Sun and progressed Saturn were in a parallel and had been for years and were going to be in for years. Her vitality was down. I tried to get her to take pep-up stuff and everything under the sun. Nothing. She wouldn't. She said, I want to die. Well, she did. And, you know, she did. She got her wish, you know. Who am I to take her happiness from her? That meant she'd be happy over there, you know. So, in her Mars progression, she had the Mars parallel Pluto for the Mars part, and as well as the Mars semi-sextile Saturn setting off the parallel. For the Neptune, she had the Sun parallel Neptune setting off a square with Neptune, and progressed Neptune was semi-square. Her Pluto had been for years and was still in for years. And then she had the Jupiter was just parallel to Saturn, as well as opposition this natal Sun. So there you go with the Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, and Mars, all aspects. Plus, she didn't care what she ate or what she did, and just wanted to die, and so she died, and that was it, you know. You try to help them, you know, that's your job, but if they want to go, let them go, you know, that's their thing. Jackie Kennedy Onassis, I'm just going to give you her, I don't have the progressions when she died, but I have her natal aspects. Natally, Saturn was in her 1st house in the natal chart. It ruled her 2nd, Capricorn on the cusp, and her 3rd with Aquarius on the cusp. Sometimes with Capricorn or Aquarius on the 3rd house, you have to really watch negativity with the mind, you know. And then the 1st house, Saturn too. Natal aspects. Saturn was sesquisquare her Sun. trine the moon, opposition Venus, square Mars, trine Neptune, parallel Pluto, square the MC, and parallel the ascendant. And it was with the Astrodites her worst planet. You know. Now, George Harrison of the Beatles. I'm just going to give you the natal. He had Saturn in the 8th in his natal chart, and it ruled his 3rd cusp with Capricorn there, and Aquarius, the 4th cusp. His natal aspects. Saturn was square the Sun. We did that, Saturn and Sun. Trine Mercury, sesqui-square Mars, conjunct and parallel Uranus, trine Neptune, sextile Pluto, and Astrodites Saturn was his worst planet. Now, the last one we're going to look at is let's visualize Neptunian. We're going to be Neptunian. Is Dr. Thomas Dooley. Saturn in his 1st house, co-rules his 3rd and 4th house. Astrodites, Saturn was the worst planet. Natal aspects. Saturn was sesqui-square the Moon, semi-square Mercury, sextile and parallel Venus, square Jupiter, trine Uranus, square Neptune, and square the MC. Oh, there's 2 more to go. Unknown. These are unknowns. This next one, Saturn was in his 1st, he died of lung cancer. This next one, he had Gemini, 4 planets in Gemini. Saturn in his 1st co-ruled his 10th and 11th and 12th cusp. Natal aspects, Saturn semi-square the Sun, sextile Mercury, sesqui-square Jupiter, square Uranus, square Neptune, sextile Pluto, conjunct the ascendant. Astrodites, his worst planet, Saturn. Okay, the last one now. Saturn was in her 2nd house. These people all died of cancer too, every one of them. Saturn ruled her 2nd house, and 8th house, 9th house, and 10th house, because Capricorn was on the cusp of the 8th, and 9th Aquarius on the 10th. Natal aspects. Saturn semi-square the Sun. Keep coming. And it was square. It was trine the Moon, and it was conjunct Venus, semi-sextile Mars, in conjunct the MC, parallel the ascendant, and with the Astrodites, Saturn came out as her worst planet. So there we have the Saturn aspect. Now,
Lynn?
Yes.
Saturn is, of course, the major malefic.
Yes.
And brings 1/2 discord to
Right.
every aspect.
Right.
So, how many people in this room have Saturn as their most discordant planet?
I do probably too.
Yeah.
I think most everybody does.
Okay.
Well,
so
no, I've seen people with harmonious Saturn
I have 2.
Yeah.
where they're almost all good aspects.
Yeah, they are the rare.
They're the rare. That's rare, but mainly the first house, 3rd house, and the 8th house are the really ones you got to watch. First being the physical body and your negative thinking and wallowing and narrow-mindedness and self-pity and all the negative Saturn fear, worry. And then the 3rd has been the mental activities and can be the mind too. And then the 8th of death, you know. And the 6th house sometimes too, you know, because that can be illness, you know. But it doesn't mean you're going to get cancer because you have it, you know. But we're going to get into all of that kind of stuff in a minute.
Okay.
Anyway,
Just wanted to check. No, I'm done.
yeah.
So you were reiterating the Saturn-Sun.
You kept, well, everybody has, almost every chart I've seen has Saturn, Sun, something bad.
What is the conjunction?
Conjunction's 100% discordant with the percentage system. It's easy for me to use. You know, it works too. You know, I use it with progressions because it shows if you're doing progress reading, let's say that a client has a lot of squares, trines, conjunctions, and the stronger aspect. And let's say a little semi-sextile comes in. Well, you know, you can say, well, it's a small opportunity, you have to cultivate it, work hard at it to make something of it. Well, they don't usually pay attention to that, and if you stress, look, this is only, some people don't want to know the planets. So I said, well, look, on a scale of from 20% harmonious to 175 harmony, 20% is the weakest. So that, and if you had something stronger or even discordant, you can still be successful. In fact, I find more people successful under bad aspects than good ones, because the good ones can make you lazy, Oh yeah, I've seen it time and again. And so I would stress, well, it's a little 20% aspect. Now, this would be something good, and I would say what line it's in and what house is involved. So if you want to get into doing this energy and use this, you've got to work very hard at this. This is not anything that you're just going to think is going to come along and it's going to be easy and over with, I stress that it's weak, but it doesn't mean they can't do it, and it depends upon whether they want to do it or not. And I said, if the opportunity comes up and you hear it, if you didn't have your chart done, you may not even realize that an opportunity was there. But now that I'm feeding your brain that there's a small opportunity that could come along, you'll be ready for it, and then you hear it, and you say, oh, that's what she meant, and then maybe you'll grab it or do something with it, and maybe you won't. It's all up to you. Nobody but you. I can't do your thinking for you or your acting for you, So that is what it is. So any more questions before I go into more things? Yes, Pat?
Like on our course 21 on personal alchemy, it goes into the mental.
Yeah, we're going to do all of that. I'm just getting started.
Oh.
Look, I have all these pages yet to go. I have a lot to go through yet. Okay, I'm going to work up to the mental and the antidotes and all that. Yeah. Anyway, so the early signs of cancer we're going to do first. Gas on the stomach or bowel, sudden weakness of the eyes, tired feeling most of the time, that'd be Sun and Saturn. Muscle weakness and cramps, muscle being Mars, first in back, then in chest. Extreme mental, this is put out by the Medical Association. Extreme mental depression, well, there's your Saturn. Sudden change in hair texture and color. Some of these I didn't know about. Development of various hernias only in slow growing tumors. Confusion, difficult to make a simple decision. Well, that's Neptunian, Okay, and the clinical cancer, 7 danger signs. Any sore that does not heal, lump or thickening in breast or elsewhere, unusual bleeding or discharge, any change in a wart or mole, indigestion or difficulty in swallowing, hoarseness or cough, any change in normal bowel movement. Now, my colonic people that I've been doing colonics for, 40 years, they have all told me that they can tell cancer when they give a colonic if the stool is black, that's one of the signs for cancer. But then they ask the person, have you been taking charcoal? Because charcoal's good for gas. If you have a Neptune affliction, you can take charcoal pills. That's better than Tums and the rest. Taking that, but there's something better than that too, that doesn't show up black, and that's ginger. And you can get high on ginger because it's a stimulant, but it's good for the gas. Used to be at the health store, used to have ginger on the bottle and say for flatness, the gas. Now they've changed it and it says digestion. I guess people didn't like.
The ginger doesn't make.
But it doesn't make your stool black, where the charcoal does. So anyway, and you get energy from the ginger. So if you want to pep up a little, that'll pep you up, and it's good for a lot of things. Now, malignancy is a disorder. This is what Dr. Kelly, is a disorder of protein metabolism due to inadequate production or utilization of enzymes. See, there's your Mars. Enzymes are produced in the pancreas. Enzyme production is controlled by a neurological process. Cancer can be determined by him or verified by a simple urine analysis. See, biopsy spreads it, And a lot of times people that get mammograms, I've never had one and I'm never going to get one. My sister's never had one, she's never going to get one, and I have other friends never had them, never going to get them. But a lot of people have gotten cancer from having mammograms, Anyway, the amount of severity of cancer can be determined by the urine analysis. Cancer can often be controlled by diet alone. This is Dr. Kelly. Cancer can almost always be controlled by proper dosages of enzymes. A cancer victim can live a long and useful life and never die as a result of cancer. I gave at the AFA, when they had a conference in Las Vegas, I gave a lecture on cancer, and at that time Dr. Kelly had what they called the Friends of Cancer groups, and he had them all over the United States. They all were for the Kelly method, and I had there must have been 500 people in the auditorium. There were doctors. I didn't know that until after I gave my lecture. And I'm talking, Dr. Pounds was there and all these other doctors and stuff. So I gave the whole Kelly thing and the astrology thing, you know. Not as much as you're getting today, because I didn't know about some of these newer things that are out. And they all came up afterwards, and this group in Las Vegas, the Cancer Society group that were interested in astrology, they came up to me, and they had all been cured of cancer with Dr. Kelly's method. And all the doctors came up, and some were surgeons, I don't know who they were. They were telling me that everything I said was right, and I said, well, I'm just repeating Dr. Kelly. That was all, his stuff. So he was really a genius, And anyway, he finally died of cancer, too. He had it at one time. But he lived a long time and did a lot, but they kept jailing him, and he had to move and out of state and everything, and he had nothing but problems because of it. That must have caused some more negativity to creep in, Anyway, so he considered malignancy indicates an active pancreatic enzyme deficiency. Now, I'm going to tell you a lot of different things. Okay, I will get down to that one first. I'll tell you about that first. According to his method, there is a pancreatic enzyme, and it is the substance most often missing in the body of cancer patients, and it's absolutely essential to stop the malignant growth and digest the tumor. And he had people at that time taking it 3:30 in the morning and 2:30 p.m. That was when Viabin did it, when you had to have the prescription. But since then, the health store, so I had to get this girl that had the cancer, that had sent the blood to Kelly. She gave me her prescription of Viabin to give to my dog. But I didn't know that the dog, I don't know if the dog needed it, but the dog was eating chicken, so that didn't help. But anyway, so pancreatin, P-A-N-C-R-E-A-T-I-N. There are two brands of it. It has to be one of the two brands because, according to Dr. Kelly, it has to be quadruple strength. And the more expensive is Cal, K-A-L. The cheaper of the two is called Twin Labs. You've all heard of Twin Lab products. It's the same thing, either one. It's just cheaper. And if a person has a Mars progression in their chart, even if they eat fish, take the pancreatin, because it will help. You don't want to take chances. You never know what may come up later on unless you look way ahead at your chart. But the pancreatin helps, but you need it to digest the protein anyway. And it digests the meat, chicken, and fish protein, maybe eggs, I guess. But anyway, now the other one, Dr. Kelly had people taking, he said, a perfectly balanced coenzyme vitamin mineral compound, and lack of this is one of the major causes of enzyme failure. Vitalizyme, it's a very expensive, at the health store, Vital, V-I-T-A-L, and then a Z-M-E. Very expensive, like $99 or $98 for a bottle of it. And that's supposed to be very good. But bromelain, made from pineapple, that's very good too. Especially if you're an A+, pineapple is good for you. You're an O. Okay, so bromelain helps you. And he also had people on the almond diet, which Edgar Casey had people taking an almond a day. And Dr. Kelly, because he wouldn't let the people eat meat, chicken, or fish in the beginning of the diet, finally he let you have fish near the end when you got better. He had people eating the almonds. And I will give you the diet stuff later. And the other one they found, and the cancer research found this out too, as well as Dr. Kelly, was that vitamin C was missing in everybody who had cancer. It was missing. Now, the best vitamin C, if you take vitamin C leaves the body every hour. And vitamin C's main job is for connective tissue. But this is what happens in our society of today with the pollutants out there. Vitamin C has another job. Its main job is the connective tissue, but it can't do its main job because if there's a lot of pollutants in the air, you know, then it goes and destroys in your body those pollutants, and then it can't go to work on your connective tissue because that's the end of it. It only stays in the body 1 hour. Vitamin C only stays 1 hour in the body. Rose hips, and if you take a lot, you have to watch ascorbic acid ones because sometimes it can bother the kidney ovary area, you know. But the rose hips vitamin C, that's the one I take, and the only one I can find with, and you could, if you can, you used to be able to find rose hips oil, liquid, and swallow it. I don't think anymore. Rose hips vitamin C by Schiff is the only one that I know of that makes the rose hips. I think Solar Ray may make one with rose hips and other things in it. Yeah. But that's the best one, is if you can get rose hips in it. And I take a lot of vitamin C, and they found out, and also bioflavonoids are very good too, and rutin. And Twin Labs makes a good bioflavonoids. I take theirs. There's a lot of companies make them, you know. But when the cancer research came out, they found there was a vitamin C deficiency, up to 4,500 milligram per day deficiency in all the cancer people. So you really need to take, I take 1,000 milligram at a time during the day, take it, you know, in the evening, take quite a lot of them. And then the other thing is, they found about the liver that I was telling you about, and I told you about what was good for the liver, and also the gallbladder that I found out I didn't know about. And another one is the balanced amino acid lipoid substance. And since cancer is often caused by an excessive intake of protein, this is necessary, okay? Now, the amino acid content for cell and tissue building and repair. And you can go to the health food store. L-arginine is one. I take that anyway. I don't know what I take it for, but I take it. I take things, I don't know, I forgot what I was taking them for, but L-arginine is one. And what's the other one? I don't know. It's got an L in front of it.
Lysine?
No.
Lysine?
No, I can't remember. But they're both amino acids. So you can just go to the health store and get the amino acid things that you can take. There's a lot of those. I take everything. Anyway, now, also they found out that a supplement that's very important, hydrochloric acid. You see, as you get older,
What was the acid called?
hydrochloric.
Oh.
Yeah, Hydrochloric. They found as you get older in life, the hydrochloric acid in your body does not produce hydrochloric acid anymore naturally.
Right.
So there is a tablet, a supplement at the health food store, put out by Twin Labs, and it is called Betain, B-E-T-A-I-N, hydrochloric, and it's beta pepsin and hydrochloric acid together. And when you're 40 years of age, and all people who are vegetarians need to take that, because it's essential, Dr. Kelly found, in the gastric digestion of all foods. It must be present to break down proteins. Okay? And the most significant value of its use, according to him, comes into play in mineral metabolism. And that's necessary. Mineral metabolism is necessary for the cancer victim, because without minerals in their proper metabolism, the enzymes of the body will not function. And dosage is normally 1 or 2 tablets immediately after meals, you know. And if you have gastric ulcers, you have to be careful of it, But those things are very important, and there's more.
Did you say minerals are needed for enzymes? And you
Minerals are needed, yeah,
and enzymes
to digest everything.
and enzymes are what you should take
You
after
can
each
take,
meal?
there's a lot of trace minerals out there. Minerals, go to the health store and just get minerals. Some health stores are very helpful, if you
We
get
have a
somebody,
really good one.
somebody who's knowledgeable and all. And now, there are different things I'm going to get into. Then I'm going to give you some things that will get rid of the, well, I'll tell you now while we're at it. Let me find my page and get everything ready. Okay. Now, there are pills, and all right, now, when you have Jupiter afflicted, you need vitamin F, which is the essential fatty acids. And UDO at the health store makes an oil blend, which is omega-3, 6, and 9, and that's good. That has flaxseed oil in it. And it has evening primrose oil and lecithin. L-carnitine was the other word I was thinking about. I think you can lose weight taking L-carnitine too. Anyway, this is, the oil is very good. Now, there is a enzymatic, E-N-Z-M-A-T-I-C, they put out at the health food store. They put out, it's mainly for cancer and to reduce tumors and growths, and it does work. And it's called C-E-L-L, Forte, F-O-R-T-E, with IP6. Like think of the initials Irene and Paul and 6. And that reduces tumors. I took it for a while. I didn't have Jupiter affliction, but I am Jupiter in. But I took it as a preventative, and I quit, finally. And so I'm not going to get cancer. I'm not going to take it. But it's very, very good. It does decrease tumors and make them smaller. And I've seen that proven. Now, the other thing I cannot pronounce, I've heard it pronounced a few times, it's homeopathic, and it is one of the best things that you can take to get rid of tumors and growths. You buy it at the health food store. It's spelled, I'll spell it, E-S-S-I-A-C-I. No, E-S-S-I-C-I. However you pronounce it. Esic or something. I forgot. I've heard it pronounced. Anyway, that will that reduces tumors and growths. That they will that and the enzymatic at health food stores will tell you are for cancer. And it comes in different forms. Now, it comes in a liquid form, but that's got alcohol in it. And alcohol is ruled by Mars, and that if you have a Mars affliction, forget. And with Mars afflictions, you shouldn't have caffeine or stimulants, alcohol and stimulants, And so the ESSIAC, whatever it's pronounced, that's very good at the health food store to take for reducing tumors and growths. And the thing is, you have to, by taking all of these, there's so many vitamins and stuff to take, but you have to kind of get them out during different time periods. But it comes in alcohol form, which is not good. It also comes in, there was a homeopathic form that you could put under your tongue, and that would help. And that would be more people, if you can find it, the same thing in more advanced stages of cancer because they can't swallow the food and stuff. And you put it under the tongue. Then I think it comes also in pill form or tablet form, but I'm not sure. But the alcohol form would not be good, because of the alcohol in it, So, and that would be, those are very good to take. Vitamin, and also B2, B5, and B6 are very important to take. And coenzyme Q10 is good. Now, something about coenzyme Q10 and biotin, B-I-O-T-I-N. Coenzyme Q10 there's one good brand of it. It's less money than all the rest, and it's put out by Jarrow, Jarrow, at the health food store. On the label, it says Absorb Q10. Now, I've been taking that all the time, but I didn't know. Russ DeRocher told me that if you, because I was always taking the Absorb with the Q10, and somehow he found out that we were talking, and he found out that the kind that does not have Absorb on the label, that all other Q10s you had to take with an oil, because if you didn't, it wouldn't work. And all the others are even more expensive than the Jarrow brand too. And the 30 milligram of Jarrow is just as effective as 100 milligram of any other. And it's less money than all the others. But I always wondered why, when I took it, I always saw that label Absorb, and I never dawned on me you needed, that it was, I just took it because I was told Jarrow was the best, so I took it. But then he told me that now I know why it says Absorb on there. Maybe it has oil in it or something that absorbs it. So those are the main vitamins to take. Now, cleansing the colon. There's purging with Epsom salts. They can do that if you can't, get rid of it. And there was Epsom salts sometimes can be too harsh of a purgative. So Standard Process Labs used to make an Epsom salt called the D-sodium phosphate, but it's not sold directly to the patient. You must get it from a doctor, But there is an alkalizing punch. You see, cancer lives in an acid system. And oxygen, if you keep oxygen, there is a book called Oxygen Therapies. And if you keep your system with oxygen, that will help also, because it can't live in an oxygen system, There is a little tiny bottle that costs about $25. You know how long it lasts? How long the bottle is good for? 20 years. It's a plant enzyme. And you put 8 drops in a glass of water, very bitter, and you swallow it. And it is oxygen, and it tells you right on the bottle, oxygen, and it gives you immediate energy. And this man that invented this, they were telling me at the health store that he had all kinds of things wrong with him, and he took it. And a friend of mine, his mother had cancer, so we went there, and the people there are very knowledgeable, and they told, I didn't know it was good for cancer, but assume it would be, it's oxygen, and they had him get that for his mother.
And what was it called? I'm sorry.
It's called it's not the Cell Forte, it's Cell Food, C-E-L-L Food. And usually it's up by the cash register at a lot of these health stores. It's a very small bottle, but this guy, when he went to buy it for his mother, he says, "Oh, I have a bottle of that." And he was taking it for energy. I was taking it for energy, and if I needed extra energy, and he says, "Well, I probably need another bottle because I've had mine for a while." And the guy at the health store was a Sagittarian in his 20s, and takes vitamins galore and healthy and strong. He says, this bottle, if you look on the label, it'll tell you that it lasts 20 years. And sure enough, on the bottle it says for 20 years. It's good. So that's one thing. It may cost you $25, but you just put 8 drops in water. You can take it as often as you want. It'll pep you right up too, so if you want to take a pepper upper, that'll help. Anyway, so if you keep your system away from being acid, see, the acid foods are the meat and the chicken and fish are acid producing. Vegetables and fruits are alkaline producing. So you want to keep your system as alkaline as you can. So this punch that they have that cleans you out is a juice of 6 fresh lemons, 12 oranges, and 6 grapefruit. Mix it all together in a gallon glass jar and filled with distilled water. And You can take it in the evening, and you can repeat it for a day or two, but if you get too weak, then you have to wait a few weeks before taking it. And sometimes, because when you're cleaning out the system, sometimes you get nausea, headaches, cramps, dizziness can come, because you're dumping a lot of garbage out of your system. Sometimes when you get colonics and they give you a long one, you're dumping a lot of garbage out and you get up and you're dizzy too, you know. And so that can be one of it. But poisons that have accumulated for years can suddenly get dumped with this punch that you can take. But it's a shock to the system because it comes out, it's fast and quick, you know, and it's temporary, you know. So find a chair, sit down on it, get a little dizzy, you know. But you can do the purging only repeated every 3 to 4 weeks for a year, is the way that he had. Fasting is another way. After the purge, you start a fast, and the fast should last for 2 days unless you're too weak, you know, and but you need to give the body a rest, and you can have discomfort. And each day of the fast, Dr. Kelly says 1 quart of fresh carrot juice and 1 pint of fresh celery juice should be taken along with all the distilled water that you can desire. And you can dilute the fresh juice with equal parts of distilled water. And he said it's important to remember that unless sufficient fluids are taken into the body, poisons become concentrated and are not eliminated in the natural way. But then there is the coffee enema, and that's what that girl, she went to the colonic place and got the Dr. Kelly book, and then she got some more colonics because she couldn't afford any more colonics. So she did the coffee enema where you stand on your head to get into the upper and lower colons and get everything out. But it worked, but they have that one to take. I don't think I'd want to stand up on my head. Well, even when I was young, I couldn't do that one. That's real Neptunian. That's a real Neptunian one. So anyway, so according to Dr. Kelly, if people would not eat animal protein after 1 p.m., he says 83% of cancer in the United States could be eliminated.
Wow. What does it have to do with that?
And that because he said, he kept saying, this is nothing more than a pancreatic enzyme deficiency. The greatest cause of this deficiency is the amount of secondhand protein fed into the body. The pancreas just simply cannot manufacture enough enzymes to digest the large volumes of milk, cheese, milk, and peanuts we eat, and have enzymes left over to digest the foreign protein we know is cancer. So with the meat, the first thing that the cancer patient, according to him, would be to give up meat. And milk is also the other thing in that, but he does say yogurt and buttermilk are okay. But he says milk, like meat, has too high a secondhand protein content and requires too many of the pancreatic enzymes for digestion. I know that milk in adults can block the colon too and cause constipation. And a lot of people with constipation is one of the ways too you have to watch getting cancer, again, keeping the colon clean, you know. And anyway, then peanuts. That would be another thing to give up. And his almond diet, now that would be what he calls he said that would be the principal protein. So if you have cancer, almond and vegetable proteins. He said the cancer patient should never give up all protein, as he might be tempted to when he first learns this principle. The pancreatic enzymes themselves are protein, amino acids, and unless the body is fed adequate protein, the pancreatic enzyme production will stop, and the cancer tissue will cause a very rapid growth. See, so you have to have some protein in your diet. Now, his almond diet, when you have cancer, is 10 almonds at breakfast and 10 at lunch, and along with the remainder of the diet. not excessive protein, you know. He says as time goes by, almonds may take, you know, as your appetite demands, you could. He says in moderation, you could have walnuts, filberts, Brazil nuts. He said cashew nuts are very desirable, especially if the victim is suffering from hypoglycemia too. Now, speaking of hypoglycemia, remember I was telling you about the chlorella? If you have hypoglycemia, which I used to have, I don't have it anymore because I take chlorella. It's a protein, and it has, according to the analysis of it, not on the bottle, but in the literature I have, it has more protein than 4 eggs and more protein than 2 pieces of chicken. And it's great for vegetarians because we vegetarians need the protein. But that protein is very good, you know. So, and you don't, and because you're getting the protein, you don't have the hypoglycemia. Like if you have hypoglycemia and you say you could eat, now see, when I had it, I could not eat fruit except lemon and grapefruit because the sugar, the fructose, would knock me dizzy in 30 minutes time. I'd get dizzy and ready to go to sleep. Cane sugar, glucose from pasta or from cakes and, you know, cane sugar, that works overnight on you, and that didn't bother the hypoglycemia. But I'd still have to eat small meals every few hours. I can go now 8 or 9 hours without eating food and I don't get dizzy because I take the chlorella in the morning. So it's wonderful. So keep in mind chlorella, okay? Now seeds and sprouts, that's another thing. And bread, which I know certain people that love bread. You have to watch white bread and stuff because, you know, people that, now I'm going to get away from cancer for 1 minute and into arthritis. White bread and white rice and white sugar is one of the causes of arthritis, you know. Wheat is not as bad, but there is a wonderful bread. It's very good. A lot of health stores carry all over the country, and that's called Ezekiel bread. You know, made with sprouts and beans and rice or whatever. But it's very good bread. It tastes just like bread, you know, and it's good for your health. And it doesn't have wheat, so it doesn't have like the white and the other bread, the flour that you can get arthritis with. The big bread eaters have to watch arthritis when they get older, you know. But you just have to watch that. But there's pills. I can give you pills to take for that. My husband used to say, "Lynne has a pill for everything." I have all kinds of pills to take. Anyway, but there are sprouts in the Ezekiel bread, so I'm giving you a little bit of extra goodies here today, you know. So, in addition to the almonds and other nuts, raw seeds and sprouts seem to be very good and may be eaten after 3 p.m. And the brown sesame, sunflower, and pumpkin seeds they find is good. Well, pumpkin has a lot of zinc in it, you know. And the sprouted seeds, such as alfalfa spreads, mung beans, sprouting buckwheat, wheat, and soybeans are supposed to be good. But some people have trouble with soybeans, and there's a lot of problems. So I would stay away from soybeans, you know. There's people that have problems, and there's things that are in it and all that. But anyway, you can grow sprouts. There's living food, you know. But he considers the alfalfa seeds and mung beans some of the best. Beans are another very good thing. So if you eat Mexican and you eat rice and beans, you're getting your 22 amino acids you need for protein.
Excellent.
For vegetarians, that's important. Like we had lentils today with rice. That was your 22 amino acids. But he says that dry beans are a very good source of food for the cancer patient and may be used 2 or 3 times a week at any time of the day. And so that's good. And he even suggests cooking them, if you're going to cook the beans, with garlic cloves, olive oil, sea salt or kelp, and cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper, have you ever seen that book, Back to Eden? It's a big, thick book at the health store. I have it. If you look in that, it's got all the herbs listed. If you look in that book, you will see that cayenne pepper is like the cure-all of everything. They have devoted more pages to cayenne pepper than any other herb in the book. And I've had people, I've had a client one time came, she had a runny nose, she had a cold, so I gave her a cayenne pepper pill, and in 20 minutes her cold was gone. It gets rid of a cold. I have them with me, I carry them in case, especially if it's cold here, in case somebody gets cold, pick up, and it's a stimulant though. It'll keep you awake, but it's good for colds, it's good for it cures bleeding ulcers. When I had dental work done one time, a dental surgery, I put it on after the surgery, the gum surgery. I went home and sprinkled cayenne pepper there. And if you have a sore, it burnt. It burned. It burned, but it healed it fast. And the periodontists, I didn't see anybody heal so fast. And he doesn't know how that burned. I told him what I did. He was an Aquarian. He was all for anything new and different. So, he used.
Your stomach if you eat
Sometimes it's better to eat food before you take it, because a lot of people can't tolerate it on empty stomach. They get rid of bleeding ulcers. And in that herb book, if you have a sore tooth, it tells you if you put a little pad thing in there with Band-Aid or whatever you put on your sore tooth with the cayenne pepper on it, it'll get rid of the sore tooth, and you could have a sore tooth gone fast and quick. And it's good for what do you call it, when people, when you have, a lot of Aquarians have the problem of breathing. Not breathing.
Asthma?
No, not asthma. No,
COPD,
ginger's good for asthma.
emphysema.
No, when you have, I can't think of the word.
COPD?
No, not when you have an illness. No, it's when you have a problem with circulation. The cayenne is very good for the circulation, but it is a stimulant. And so remember, if you want to stay up late at night, you can stay up with it. But,
I have no problem with doing that.
But, if I can feel a cold coming on, I take, I haven't had a cold in years, but if I feel one coming on, I take echinacea. Then if that doesn't work, I go to the cayenne and I never get the cold, that's it. But it's burns, but okay. It's a stimulant, it's good for you. I mean, they considered that in that book as the best herb in the herb kingdom, and they devoted like 8 pages to it. The others only had 1 or 2 pages. They devoted more pages with more cures. They considered the cure-all of most things, Yes.
And have you heard of, it's called different things, but the lemonade diet, which is fresh squeezed lemon, a little bit of maple syrup, and cayenne pepper.
Yeah, that's supposed to be good.
Drink it, and you drink it throughout the day.
Yeah.
But I've heard that cayenne pepper is also a blood cleaner.
Yeah, it's a blood.
Yes.
Oh, and then also the garlic purifies the bloodstream too. Yeah, that cayenne is good for. I can't even remember all the things that it's good for, but it's good for a lot. And then the vegetable juice. Now, Dr. Kelly has the people on a vegetable juice diet, and that's 1 quart of carrot and 1 pint of celery juice, and that is very important. And he said alfalfa, beet, cabbage, cucumber, dandelion, endive, lettuce, parsley, potato, spinach, and turnip juice are also good. The vegetable juices are the builders of the body. And he said juice is better than the whole vegetable because so much energy is used to digest the whole vegetable, where the juice it's easier to digest, and it has the proper balance of vitamins and minerals in it. And best to use it fresh. Now, I know if you want to cleanse your liver, what's good for that is beet juice is very good for cleansing the liver. The only thing you have to really watch when you do the juices is you can't overdo the green, like alfalfa or what do they call those sweet sprouts? Those people go and green
Wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass, yeah. The wheatgrass, a lot of people take that for the cancer. A lot of health stores have it, And I took it once. I didn't have cancer, but I bought some, and then I made myself sick after 2 of them. I can't to this day taste it. I gave the rest of them all away to somebody. I said, I can't take this.
Really hard.
It
on
was
the
too
gut.
strong. It's
Yeah.
too strong. You know?
Wheatgrass juice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
wheatgrass is hard, and
Even
it.
if you put it in with.
Well, see, the
blueberries
greens, if you
with
put with
another
carrot, that's why you should, when you have carrot juice, you have some green with it, but you don't want a lot of green and not the carrot and other things to balance it out. You know, you can't have too much green, it's too hard. Too
Any
much,
green?
too much green, any spinach or whatever it may be. If you're gonna put spinach and carrots together, have more carrots than you have green, you know,
See, I
in the
thought you were
juice.
saying you couldn't overdo the green.
Oh, you can put green in, you do need green in there.
Yeah.
And green is good. Now, the thing is this, spirulina and wheatgrass and the chlorella and chlorophyll capsules, all of those greens. If you can only have one, you can't have them all at the same time because they're incompatible and will knock each other out. Just like you're not supposed to, and this is in the Church of Life books, you're not supposed to eat spinach with a calcium meal. That knocks it out. You know, Albert's book on the diet and nutrition and all of that, they still, and look how long ago he wrote those books, CCC. They still hold true today on the diet. Everything holds true. I have a lot of research that I have done with the cancer and other things. And then I said, well, I haven't looked at Albert's books in years and years. I'm going to go look and see what he wrote from. I haven't read them in 20 years or so. So I got them out, and everything that was in these newest research, they just found out Albert already knew about it. He already knew and wrote about it. What, 40, 50, 60 years ago or more, 70 years, you know, they already are out. So his books are still good. Everything in them still works, you know, with the diet.
Which one has that dietary info?
Is that the personal alchemy? Personal alchemy?
alchemy.
Yeah. Now, so with the cancer, as I say, sometimes cancer you may not have a Saturn aspect, but you may have a Jupiter affliction, and your liver can start to be in trouble. But the liver, the disease condition of the liver may not show up for years, because the liver does not present any characteristic symptom of pain for a long time, even years. That's why I take a lot of the liver pills, things for the liver. Well, that's not why, but I now that you know all this, you just take it, you know. And then, because cancer can be a hidden disease, you know, with Neptune involved, it can be hidden. But if we look at a chart and we can see something coming up a year or two from now, all these predispositions, then we, on ourselves, if it's in our chart, we get busy with all this stuff and our thinking, and then we get busy with how to help the client, talk to them. Can't say you may get cancer because it'll scare them and make them negative and get it, you know. So you just say, well, you know, in my opinion, if I was you and I had these aspects, this is what I would eat and take and all that kind of stuff, you know. But they found that cancer cells, if you have a lot of vitamin A, B, and C, they're the oxidation substances, the antioxidants. Cancer can't live when there's a lot of those in your body, your system. And vitamin A is important for the decomposition of certain fatty acids. I take beta-carotene because sometimes they've found that vitamin A can be toxic. And anyway, the vitamin C, I already told you about that one. And that's important for the entire oxidation process that takes place in the cells. Vitamin B, along with vitamin C, may increase twice or even threefold the oxidating enzymes in the blood. What I do, I don't take a B complex. I'm allergic to B12 anyway, but I don't take it. And but there's B12 in my chlorella. But what I do is you have to take all the B's together. And if you take this is going to be verbal logic that I'm going to use. Just think, you look at the size of a bee tablet complex that has all those bees in it that you need. Do you think you're getting enough bees with that little tiny capsule? It contains enough. No, it's not logical. So I take B1, I have them all lined up. B1, I go down the line every morning, B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, and PABA, PABA, that's one of the Bs, and folic acid is one of the Bs, and what else, I can't remember, but I take, B12 is in when I take my chlorella, so you have to take all the Bs together to get the working of the B. You can't just take B2, but all the Bs are needed. So if you take all of these Bs separately, you will get the benefit of all the Bs. If you take a big complex pill, it's not going to have, if you look at all these pills I'm taking, choline and inositol is another one. And choline is good for memory, remember? But choline and inositol is one of the Bs. So you can buy that combined at Twin Labs. But if you look at those capsules and you look at all the capsule, one capsule alone of one of the Bs is larger than that B complex. So what are you getting in a concentrated B? Just take a lot of pills and swallow them. That's it.
Well, what about brewer's yeast though?
Well, some people, if you have a Neptune affliction, you have to watch that in Candida,
Especially in
with brewer's yeast. So some people can't tolerate it. It depends upon your chart with Neptune. Yes, Paul?
I was going to ask about the brewer's yeast.
Yeah. Some people can take the brewer's yeast and don't have a problem, but if there's a Neptune affliction, you may have a problem with it.
What would be the problem?
Candida. Yeah. So, and those people can't take it. So rather than that, I just take all the Bs.
How did you know that you have a B12 allergy?
Because when I first went to the Church of Light, Doris Chase Doan told me I had to take vitamins. And she told me because I was a vegetarian that I had to take B12. So I went to the health store and I got B12. I took one and I got deathly sick. I had to go to bed, take to the bed. Made me very sick. So I went back to the health food store and I said, this made me very sick. I can't take it. She says, a lot of people can't. And she said, so what we recommend is desiccated liver. It's put out by Solgar. It's 100% defatted Argentina beef. So as much as I was a vegetarian, I swallowed that for a long time. Now that I have my beloved chlorella, I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'll tell you about that. Well, that's another story. But anyway, so then I was in some automobile accidents. I wasn't driving. I didn't drive in those days with other people. And they went to the doctor and gave me an injection. I got deathly sick and went to the bed, and I called the doctor and asked what it was, and it was B12. So 3 times, and then I had another accident with somebody else and got another injection, forgetting all about that B12 and what it was. Got deathly sick, took to the bed, and it was B12. So I found out 3 times not to take B12, so I don't take it, But that's how you can tell if it makes you sick.
Do you ever recommend that people get muscle tested or anything?
Oh, see that like the what do you call it? Kinesiology. Yeah, you can do that. Well, that's what this doctor in New York, but he did it with the vitamins. Some people do it with a pendulum, and they take the vitamin and the pendulum over the vitamin, But I have a pendulum, but I don't use it. I think my mind is too strong, and it goes my way. So I don't trust it. So I gave up on it. I have it, I gave up on it. No, I look at my chart, and I look at all my progressed aspects. And you see, and I have that, I took some of the stuff from Elbert's book on the vitamins and personal alchemy, and I combined that with all the other things. I've dated that, and combined it up. Now I could, as I said, update that book, Astro Guide to Nutritional Vitamins. It's still printed, AFA prints it, and it still works. So I look at my afflicted chart, and as I say, Albert was 100% accurate with that, and so I updated it because I knew what the therapeutic value was and what that vitamin, if I know what that vitamin does to what part of the body and what it's for, then you can correlate that with the planet, you see? Just like the liver, the enzymatic liver care and all the liver. But for the gallbladder, now I found out a new one I didn't know about for the gallbladder, you know? And there's others for the bladder too, that Himalaya puts out. There's different ones. So I've updated things, and I just look at my chart, and I see the aspects by progression at a certain time period, and I say, well, now I need, my son's afflicted, so I need vitamins, you know, for the sun affliction, coenzyme Q10 and the chlorella is for the sun, you know, and all that. So I have a lot of energy. Don't I have a lot of energy? Yeah. We're 79, almost 79 years of age, so I take all the vitamins. I don't take prescription medicine, you know, and I take all the vitamins for the sun, and then I look at my other planets if they're afflicted. I take the vitamins for that, and then well, now we'll get off of the cancer thing. I'll give you some Saturn afflictions to take so you don't get, I'll tell you about some little things nobody knows about much for arthritis, to prevent osteoporosis, or if you have osteoporosis, how to get rid of it. Saturn, of course, is involved in all that, right? Everybody knows that now. Okay. Now, when you take, you need calcium. Now, all the calcium, you see all these people in the United States get osteoporosis and they're taking calcium. But you know why? They're not taking all the things you need. First of all, in order to digest calcium, you need vitamin C, you need boron or B-O-R-O-N, boron, you need that, you need vitamin D, and you need the proper magnesium balance with the calcium. So the only brand that has all of that in it is put out at the health store by Solarate. Now they make a lot of calciums. The rest of their calciums aren't any good, but they have one. It's got 3 names: Calcium Citrate Supreme. That has everything to digest on it. Knocks you out. You take it at nighttime and puts you to sleep. I take 5 at night.
Great.
It's wonderful. And the other one is Jarrow, Jarrow. They put out a Ultra Bone Up. Bone and then UP. Ultra Bone Up is better than their regular Bone Up. Loaded with calcium. It's got everything to digest in it, but it also has a long name I can't spell and I cannot pronounce. 2 long words, and that replaces and builds new bone. It rebuilds your bone. And that tells you that on the bottom. Okay? That's good. Now there's more. Vitamin D3. D3 is very good for the bones. Now, at one time, they thought vitamin D was toxic. And when I had my little fall last year and I went to rehab, my Sagittarian, the same birthday as me, doctor, head of rehab, I had all my stuff over there. I said, I want to get well in her. I don't have time to be here. I've got to take this. They wouldn't let me have some of the things I needed to get well quicker. They wouldn't let me have my chlorella. It's food. They wouldn't let me have it until 3 days or so before, and then I got up, and the night nurse, she liked me, she sneaked it to me, they locked everything up, she sneaked it to me, said hide it in the drawer, so then I overdosed. They only finally let me have 1, I took 3. And then I got up and I walked 600 meters or whatever it was instead of 300, and they couldn't get over my energy all of a sudden. I told them, I don't have time. I got to get healed here. I don't have time to be in this hospital. I don't have time. So he told me that vitamin D3 you can take 5,000 and 6,000 units of it. I says, I thought that was toxic. And he says, they thought it was at one time, but it is not toxic. He says, it even cures fibromyalgia, the overdoses of it. So that's good. So I take extra of that too. I take 5,000 units of that. But and Ultra Bone Up. Now there is something else. And you can buy it in health food stores, some places. But a friend of mine, she worked 60 years in a health food store in New York City. And she moved to Maine. When she took calcium, she took the Solar Ray, the Ultra Bone Up, she exercised on a trampoline. And when she was 80 years old, she was diagnosed with osteoporosis. So she doesn't have a computer, she's up in Maine, and she called the health pharmacies she used to work with and talked to them, did some research. And there's this pharmacy in New York called Nutrapharma, and they will mail it to you. But she said that theirs is better than the American made. It comes from Canada. And there's two things in it. One is called strontium, S-T-R-O-N-T-I-U-M. And it is a trace mineral. And on the bottle, it tells you that it is to build new bone in the cell. Do you think that rehab place would let me have that? No. They wouldn't let me have it. And I finally, the Sagittarian doctor, finally I said, look, I want to get well. I've got to get well. I have to get out of here. You know, they thought I'd be there a month. I was there 2 weeks. And I said, I have to hurry. Can't, look at this, bring the bottle to me. It's in the vault locked up. I want to show you something. So I showed him. I read it to him. I says, new bone in the cell. Now, don't you think that would make me get well? Because the pharmacy there turned it down. And he said, okay, you can take it. So I was able, and you can't take strontium, and it tells you on this bottle, with any calcium meal. And if you eat spinach or any food or calcium pills, it won't work. So I take it since I'm a late night person, I take it like 3 hours before it's time for me to wake up. Because then the calcium I took at night to go to sleep with, I hope it's out by then. So I take that as a preventative. Anyway, the other thing is called, and it's by the same company in the same place you buy it, it's called PEAK, P-E-A-K, then the letter K, 2. And that improves the quality of the bone. And there's that Nutrapharm, I don't have their number with me, but you can call them. They're in 46th Street in New York, on the east side, I think, and they will ship it to you. And when you take the PEAK K2, you have to take that with a piece of fat, a piece of butter or a piece of cheese, some kind of fat with that. Now, this woman was 80 years old. She took all of the things I just told you about, all of it, everything. Within 1 year, she went back for her density test, and she's 80 years old, now she's 81. The osteoporosis was gone. She's 85 now. Every 6 months she goes back for a test. She still takes all that, and she doesn't have osteoporosis anymore. And it's harder to get well when you're older than when you're younger. So you see, if you have Saturn afflicted, you need all of those vitamins. So keep that in mind. So you had a little extra goodie for today. Anyway, now, salt is bad.
Did you say that D3 cures fibromyalgia?
Yeah, that's what the doctor told me. I didn't know that. Yeah, he said that, but mega doses, I think 5,000 or 6,000 milligrams, he says they found that it cures that one. I said, well, I thought it was toxic. That's what he answered. I said, oh, I didn't know that one, you know.
They used to tell us it was toxic. They told us for years that vitamin D
I heard that toxic. I heard it was toxic.
Don't take more than 400.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I didn't. I wasn't taking. Yes. Now I take 5,000 units. Think nothing of it. I take the Jarrow brand of D3.
The 3 is important.
Yeah, the D3.
Different Ds.
There's different Ds. The D3 is the one, and that's what he wanted me to take. I took 2,000. Finally, I had the nerve to take 2,000. But then after he said 5, I said, well, why not take 5,000?
Depending on how much sunlight you get. But there was another.
Well, I don't go out much. I work all the time inside,
Well,
so I don't go out much in the sun.
there's a Garden of Life makes a product that has the strontium, and it also has.
Yeah, but she found that the only strontium that was any good was the one from Canada. She said the ones in the United States made or with other things in it were not good. And I just had my colonic girl just a few weeks ago showed me. She says, oh, I've got strontium now. So she showed me the bottle, and it had strontium, and what you're talking, all this. I says, no, this has calcium in it. You can't take this. You can't take strontium with calcium.
That whole Grow Bone series that
Yeah.
that brand Garden of Life puts out, yes, they have a separate
I know.
bottle of the strontium that is not, you don't take it at the same time.
I
you
know,
get that. And
yeah.
then the other factor of that is that vitamin K,
Yeah, well,
which is that P.
that
That's
PK,
what
yeah,
you're
the
talking
PK too, yeah.
Yeah.
And that improves the quality of them. I take them all. I just take everything. I like to pop pills.
Virgo.
It's easier, yeah, Virgo. It's easier to pop pills.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I have Saturn in the first house in Scorpio, and I'm very sensitive to all these kind of vitamins. And
Well, I
my
don't know.
basic issue is that I get like overly toxic from a lot of these things.
Well, maybe you need to detox your system and then take them.
Okay.
Try that, because if you have a toxic system, maybe some of this toxic stuff just work. I mean, these vitamins will not work, if you still have a toxic system. That's why the colonics and the purging, any one of those things you get are very good to have, because they get rid of the poisons, the garbage in the system. And then you can take things easier, but so try that and see if that would work. Now, salt and sugar, cancer feeds on sugar, and salt is very bad because it increases the cramping of the capillaries and has been known to be concentrated in body cells, which become increasingly cancerous. And so it's not good to have salt. And when you eat out or something, they're going to put salt on the food. And I always have a potassium pill to counteract the salt, And one time I had a baked potato at the Red Lobster with my sister, and I put a lot of butter on it, excessive Sagittarian butter. Sag likes butter and cream and frostings and whipped cream and all that kind of stuff. So I put a lot of butter, 2 things. So my sister, when we had to go see my surgeon, my sister decided to tell on me to the doctor. So she says, she put all this butter. Of course, I was taking red yeast rice pills too, They made sure I took that. So she's all this butter on this thing. And he said to me, he didn't say anything against it. He just said to me, he's a vegetarian too. He just said to me, well, do you put salt and pepper on it? And I said, no, I don't put pepper on. If I did use pepper, I'd use cayenne. But I don't put pepper and I don't put salt. And I said, I don't eat salt unless I'm going to eat out and they put salt in the food, then I take a potassium pill to counteract it. He says, that's very good. And I says, yes, because salt causes strokes. And he says, that's right. They cause strokes. And if you take potassium, that would help. And I just found out from the woman that worked 60 years in the health food store, because a friend of mine had a stroke, and she knew the friend, and I was telling her, and she says, tell her, and she told me something to take. And she says, tell her to take this. It's a preventative against strokes, and if somebody has a stroke, it will also help cure you and get you better quicker. And she said, octacosanol. I said, I take octacosanol for energy. She says, I said, I take Twin Labs octacosanol. It's made with sage. She says, no, that's not any good. She says, you have to get Prometol, Prometol. That's the best form of octacosanol. And I tried that years ago in Las Vegas. They didn't have it. They looked it up. They couldn't get it. So she said, well, you get the strontium and that from that health store, right, where I get mine? And I said, yes. She said, well, that's where I get my Prometal from. So next, I had just had an order of strontium, so I said, next time I order, I'm going to order the Prometal instead. But I didn't even know that that was a preventative against strokes. I knew about the salt, and so my doctor, when he said that, I knew that one too. But salt's bad for cancer. And you also have to watch refined, canned, bottled, powdered, junk food, artificial coloring, preservatives, all of that. No dairy food, no nitrates, like smoked food has nitrates in it, you know. And the potassium, and stay away from refined and processed oils. And don't overeat or drink liquid soups, beverages too hot or too cold, that's an old one. And, or food that way too. And of course, stay away from fried foods, French fries and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, natural salt is better if you're going to use salt. I don't use any, but anyway, if you're going to. But I gave you all the rest of the stuff that he said for the salads and all the juice drinks and all of that's good. But all the vitamins are good with the Bs. Calcium is also good for the cancer, and zinc and phosphorus, selenium. A lot of people swear by selenium. And I told you about the hydrochloric acid. Now, there is another thing. When I told you about the oxygen, I told you about that. Oxygen is found in the air as well as fruits and vegetables, you know. And when the blood passes through the lungs, it's purified by oxygen. So everyone needs more oxygen because it hastens elimination and burns up poisons. And oxygen keeps cells flexible, clean, and removes unneeded structure. That's why that cell food thing that's good with the oxygen is good. In Germany, there's a book, and I have it, it's called Oxygen Therapies. I bought it years ago at a health food store. And it's a very technical book. From doctors wrote different chapters, and it's in English, but these German doctors there, they cured cancer with oxygen therapy over there, you know, in Germany for years. This is 60 years or 70 years ago. They used to do it. And I had a guy that had the cancer. He was a doctor too, and I told him about it in the book. He went over to Germany and he got cured with it, with the oxygen thing. They think they get something, remove part of the blood, and then they put another blood in or something, transfusion or something, and they get it out of the bloodstream. I don't know. It's somewhere they clean out the dirt from the system anyway. And also hydrogen peroxide does that too. And also what's good to get rid of free radicals that are trying to destroy your body is SOD, S-O-D. It means sodium oxide dismutase, but it's not salt. The best brand of that is Cal, K-A-L, and they make two of them, but the one you want to get is called SOD-3. And it gives you energy, but it gets rid of all the free radicals that are trying to destroy your body. SOD was very big in England. Barbara Cartland, who wrote all those books, the love books, and all those books, who was related to Princess Di, she was head of the Society, the health organization over there. She had everybody in England doing the SOD. They were all taking SOD. But I heard her on the show telling it, so I went to the health store to find out about it, and so I've been taking it ever since. But it gives you energy too, so that's a good one to take. And remember, disease can't live in a high oxygen environment, as I told you. And minerals are the basic building blocks of the body and are vital to oxygenation. And fluoride reduces the body's ability to oxygenate, so keep that in mind. You know, I don't use toothpaste with fluoride.
Oh, fluoride.
Fluoride.
Oh, yeah.
Or in water, you know. Yeah, I use Tom's of Maine toothpaste without fluoride. Yeah. But anyway, and exercise, it gets oxygen into the body. Well, you feel better afterwards too. And so all the foods. Now, the oxygen-giving supplements is what I told you, the SOD. the octocosanol, coenzyme Q10, vitamins A, C, E, and selenium, and vitamin F, which is the essential fatty acids, vitamin E2. Now, the thing with vitamin E, you need to have Venus afflicted in your chart if you're going to take it. And the other thing is, you cannot take iron or the chlorella that has iron in it, and at the same time you take vitamin E. They have to be 12 hours apart because they kick each other out. They're not compatible.
So vitamin E.
And iron are not compatible. Okay. And aloe vera juice is very good. The best type of aloe vera juice at the health store is called whole leaf aloe vera juice. I get the bitter one. It comes with flavors too, but I like the just take them and you swallow that. The other, my doctor had me get in it because I had what do you call it, tissue buildup after you have surgery inside, you know.
Adhesions?
Yeah, you can have that in, and to get rid of that, and to get rid of aloe vera on your skin will get rid of burn marks, all kinds of adhesions, things. And if you take the whole leaf aloe vera leaf, it gets rid of and clean scar tissue. That's the word I wanted. It gets rid of the scar tissue inside the body. So he has me taking that, so I'll never get it again. So I drink that every day. And if I'm traveling, you can buy aloe vera pill tablets. They have it in tablet form too that you can take. So and that prevents, but that's also very good for cancer, preventing cancer. You know. Okay, now it was very interesting after knowing all this stuff about Dr. Kelly and his methods and everything. That was 30, 40 years ago I knew about it, the book. And then about 2 years ago, some client sent me this thing, a cancer update from Johns Hopkins. And it sounds just like Kelly. This is an update. Kelly knew this way beforehand. Anyway, he says, they say every person has cancer cells in the body. These cells do not show up in the standard tests until they have multiplied to a few billion. When doctors tell cancer patients that there are no more cancer cells in their bodies after treatment, it just means the tests are unable to detect the cancer cells because they have not reached the detectable stage. That's why it's good to continue taking all these vitamins. And cancer cells occur between 6 to more than 10 times in a person's lifetime. When the person's immune system is strong, the cancer cells will be destroyed and prevented from multiplying and forming tumors. Oh, there is one other thing that's very good for the immune system. You buy it at the health food store. It comes from Germany. It's in a little tiny tablet. It's expensive too. It's called Wobenzym. WOBENZYM. And that tells you right on the bottle, it is good for inflammation, and it really gets rid of inflammation of any kind. It is good for the immune system, builds up the immune system. It is good for arthritis, for the joints, and it's good for muscle pain and weakness and pain in the muscles and aches and pains. So I take that at night. It makes you a little sleepy, so I take it at night. But that's another good one to take. Okay. When you have cancer, it indicates that this is Johns Hopkins. You have multiple nutritional deficiencies. These could be due to genetic, environmental, food, and lifestyle factors. And this is why they recommend, Johns Hopkins, to change the diet, include supplements that strengthen the immune system. And chemotherapy involves poisoning the rapidly growing cancer cells, but it also destroys healthy cells, which I have known, and they can't be rebuilt. Once that radiation hits, that's it. in the bone marrow, gastrointestinal tract, and so forth. They can cause organ damage, liver, kidneys, heart, lungs, etc. And radiation, while destroying cancer cells, also burns, scars, and damages healthy cells, tissues, and organs. Vitamin C is one of the best things for people who have had chemotherapy to take, but lots of it, mega doses all day long. Okay. And now I'm going to tell you, cancer cells feed on sugar. Sugar. They love sugar. And that's cutting off sugar cuts off one important supply of food to the cancer cells.
Lynn, you have a question from
And-
our online audience.
Oh, okay.
It's about honey, maple syrup.
Well, I'm getting into the sugar
Oh,
thing.
okay, thank you.
Okay, sugar substitutes like NutraSweet, Equal, Spoonful, etc., are all made with aspartame or whatever, and is not harmful. A better natural substitute would be Manuka honey or molasses, but only in very small amounts.
What kind of honey?
Manuka, Manuka, whatever that
It's
is.
tea tree from
Mhm.
It's
Brazil.
isn't it South America?
Australia.
Oh, is it Australia?
Melaleuca. Tea tree. And so the bees obtain their pollen from
And of
those
course,
trees.
I mentioned the salt before to you, table salt bad. And Bragg's amino or sea salt is better if you need salt. And milk causes the body to produce mucus, you all know that. Cancer feeds on mucus. By cutting off milk and substituting unsweetened, they call it soya milk, but some people can't tolerate soy, so.
Almond milk's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't drink, well, if you have ice cream, gelato, or something tasty like that. Then you have trouble. Well, I
That
just,
can be arranged
just
with.
take a few more vitamins to counteract it, a few more immune system, a few more this, a few more that.
That's when you were talking about the natural substitutes for sugar. Manuka honey and what, you said?
Molasses
Molasses.
in small amounts.
Is stevia bad for you?
Hmm?
Stevia, I think it's called.
What?
Also the xylitol, that's a kind of stevia.
Stevia, is that all?
STEVIA.
Yeah.
Oh, the new one?
Yeah.
That herb.
Well, it is
I-
It's a
natural.
leaf.
It's a leaf?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that,
It's not bad.
well, I don't eat sweets that, not very seldom. Anyway, cancer cells, as I told you, this is Johns Hopkins. Thrive in an acid environment. See, I told you, a meat-based diet is acidic, and it is best to eat fish and a little chicken rather than beef or pork. Meat also contains livestock antibiotics, growth hormones, and parasites, which are all harmful, especially to people with cancer. Now, this is Johns Hopkins. Why didn't they discover this like Dr. Kelly did 40 years ago? What's happening with the cancer research. That cancer treatments of America is very good. I heard it's expensive, but they have mental treatment as well as the vitamins and stuff. So a diet made of 80%, this is Johns Hopkins, says a diet made of 80% fresh vegetables and juice, whole grains, seeds, nuts, and a little fruits help put the body into an alkaline environment. And so that is that. Avoid coffee, tea, and chocolate, which naturally have high caffeine. Green tea is a better alternative and has cancer-fighting properties. Water best to drink purified water or filtered to avoid known toxins and heavy metals in tap water. Distilled water is acidic, so avoid it. That's what it says. Johns Hopkins says. Meat protein, they say, is difficult to digest, requires a lot of digestive enzymes. I wonder if they read Dr. Kelly's book. And undigested meat remain in the intestines, become putrefied, leads to more toxic buildup. If you're in the hospital and you're a meat eater, they take you off of meat. It's one of the first things that people are taken off because it's too hard to digest, And cancer cells walls have a tough protein covering. By refraining from or eating less meat, it frees more enzymes to attack the protein walls of cancer cells and allows the body's killer cells to destroy the cancer cells. Okay? And now here they tell you, now this is what I just told you, some supplements build up the immune system. They have that IP6, the sulforte I told you about, and they have flor, F-L-O-R, and then they have S-S-E-N-C-E, and then they have that other word I can't pronounce, E-E-E-S-S-I-A-C, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, EFAs, whatever that is, to enable the body's own killer cells to destroy cancer cells. Other supplements like vitamin E are known to cause apoptosis or programmed cell death, the body's normal method of disposing of damaged, unwanted, or unneeded cells. Cancer is, John Hopkins, cancer is a disease of the mind, body, and spirit. A proactive and positive spirit will help the cancer warrior be a survivor. Anger, unforgiveness, and bitterness put the body into a stressful and acidic environment. Learn to have a loving and forgiving spirit. Learn to relax and enjoy life. That is John Hopkins.
This is Johns Hopkins.
Can you imagine? This
Maybe
is,
there's hope.
yeah, I know. Yeah, and cancer cells, and they tell you about, I already told you about, they said it can't thrive in an oxygenated environment. Exercising daily and deep breathing help to get more oxygen down to the cellular levels. And oxygen therapy is another means employed to destroy cancer cells. That was all John Hopkins. Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's amazing, Okay, now with the mental thing with the charts. Okay, Saturn. Now, you can use conversion, the constructive side of Saturn, or you can use the antidote. Some people find it easy to use the antidote, and some people find it easier. As I said this morning, people that have problems with money and are worried about money, they can't go out and socialize and use the Venus. They could start to have a loving nature. Oh, and another thing too, years ago I read, and this is in a lot of the cancer progressed positions chart, a Venus-Saturn discordant aspect to one another by progression. And the cancer research, oh God, when I still lived in New York, 20 years ago, came out with a paper that said that they found in their research that people who lost a loved one a year or two later would develop cancer because they were grieving over that loved one. You see the negativity. Lost Saturn, Venus, a loved one. And they found that in their research. But see, they didn't use the mental thing. Now John Hopkins, I guess, is going to start using it, and that Cancer Center of America probably uses all the alternative methods and vitamins and everything. Anyway, so it depends upon you, but if you discover you're negative, depressed, selfish, worried about money, or you appear cold or indifferent to people, or too cautious, too skeptical to trust others, these are all discordant, and you could economize, you could cut down on costs, eliminate waste. That's all constructive Saturn energy. But I always tell my clients, take on more than you can handle. Take on so much that you don't have time to think. When can you get negative? Thoughts produce things. So I have some affirmations that I tell them to say. And that is, one is, you can think of a gold key, you're turning it in your hand, and you say, I golden key away all negative thoughts, conditions, situations. I free myself of restrictions and limitations. Because Saturn afflicted, well, I'm too old to do this, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I didn't go training and I didn't go to school for that. Listen, Grandma Moses, look at when she started painting, and became successful. She wasn't young. And look at a lot of other people. You use Saturn, you can do all these things, but if you put a limitation and you say, well, I can't do this, you're right, you can't do it. You told yourself you can't, you can't. So you got to use, yes, I can do it, I can go after this, I can do it. You got to be positive. And so I also tell them, you say, I say, praise myself for being happy, cheerful, carefree, confident, and outgoing. And then you say, I'm getting rich. I'm getting richer. I'm rich and getting richer. I'm lucky and getting luckier. Happy and getting happier. I'm successful and getting more successful. Then you say, my good is everywhere. I move to my greater good. I am safe and secure. So remember, thoughts produce things. Think about what you are saying to yourself. If you say, I can't do this, I won't get this job. This isn't going to happen. Oh no, that's too preposterous. I can't have. Of course, you can't blow things out of proportion and think you're going to make $1 million overnight, and get rich quick schemes. You can't. You have to be logical and practical, down to earth, But you can still do well, and you can still get things. And the idea is to keep busy, because people that get depressed are not busy. They have time on their hands to think. That's why it's good to keep busy, keep moving, keep doing things. Think of more things to do. There is so many things for people to do out there. There's people you can help. A lot of people, I've seen people that go to hospitals, and they're not nurses' aides or anything, but they go around and cheer people up. They volunteer to cheer people up. There's people that go to the senior citizens, and they go there and play games with them, or they try to cheer them up and try to keep them busy, So there's all kinds of things you can do. If you want to work and make money, then you can try something like that. The other day there was a program on, somebody was on a talk show, and he was talking about, the economy of today, and what he was saying was that, a lot of the business is going outsourced overseas and all of that, China and all these places. And he was saying that, and what they do in China is that they buy something from the United States that they don't have. And they have the best scientists, I understand, in the world over there. And they duplicate, they see what we have once we send it to them, and they duplicate it, and then they don't buy it anymore from us because they produce it. So this guy was saying that nowadays, now with the new age and with all the outsourcing, he said the global outsourcing is not going to stop, no matter who's president. People have to be innovative. They have to go into their own little business. They have to find out there what they can do and they can offer that nobody else is offering. And that makes sense. That's a good way to help. A lot of these people that lost their jobs got laid off because of the economy. There were some that just stopped and stewed about things. There were others that, when they were on unemployment, put themselves in college and school and learned computers and learned other things, and they got jobs right away because they used the energy constructively. There was 2 women when I lived in New York City. This one high-rise I lived in, there were 2 women. I would walk my dog, they'd walk their dog. So we'd talk, and they wanted their charts done. One was a Capricorn and one was a Virgo. And they both worked, they were roommates, and they both worked in the advertising business at different companies. They did the photographs of the food that you see on TV commercials and did their chart. And the one, she had the Capricorn, she had cancer at one time in her life, And so anyway, but she didn't have it at that time period. But I saw they both had Uranus aspects with the 6th house of getting laid off. They both got laid off from different companies, but both had the aspect in and got laid off at the same time. Well, the Capricorn got so negative and so depressed with it, she just sat in the apartment. She couldn't go look for a job. She was so upset. She'd been 30 years on the job. Both of them had been 30 years on their jobs. What did the Virgo do? She went out, and she went for interviews right away. She got a fantastic job to live in Hawaii, make a lot of money, and do all the things she was just doing with the ad agency. So she was positive, and you can, there's two people right there, and they both had the same type of aspects, but you can see how one used it in a positive way and the other in a negative way. And I lost track of both of them, so I don't know whatever happened. But the one, well, a year later, she still hadn't got a job. She was still upset. The last I saw her, she was still upset. No matter what you can tell them to go do, people don't listen. If they're not their time to do anything, it's not their time. All you can do is try to help people. And as I say, I tell people, I can't think for you. I can't act for you. You're on your own. I can help you. I can suggest what to do or how to counteract this or the type of thinking you should do, but I can't do your thinking for you. You know. So,
what suggestions do you have for remaining positive? Because
well, I haven't got into.
I
haven't. Well, we'll get into all of that. I'm still on Saturn. I haven't finished. I have not finished dear little Saturn. Well, I'd rather have Saturn afflicted than Neptune. You can do more, accomplish more, you know, makes you work hard. So in other words, you see Saturn can be a loss, but Saturn can also be an accumulation. So instead of losing money with Saturn, you could accumulate money. And if I tell people, if you get so busy you don't have time to spend your money, you accumulate it instead of losing it. You know, which can happen, you know. Now, so a lot of people, they're taking on the heavy load, and not to gripe about your work, complain. You know, complaining, griping, that's all using Saturn energy. You should be happy you have a job, especially now with the economy like it is. People should say, gee, I'm lucky to be working. The more you tell yourself you're lucky, the luckier you're going to be. And if you say, oh, I'm unlucky, well, you're going to be unlucky because, again, it's what you're telling yourself. So if you say, I'm lucky and I'm getting rich and I'm happy, you're putting positive things into yourself. So you've got to tell yourself good things. Sometimes, you know, you have to lie to yourself. Yeah. And you have to lie. That's when you use Neptune. That's when you use Neptune on the good side or bad side. You say, well, I'm rich and getting richer. I know I'm getting rich and richer. This is happening, you know, and you visualize it. You use Neptune to visualize things, you know. That's what, in the get rich quick stuff, you visualize things, but you can't just visualize something. As Jesse Montoya used to say, you have to put action and mobility into whatever you do. So you've got to use Mars, even if afflicted. You've got to go push and use Mars to accomplish and do things. See, I have found you can be very, very successful under Mars, good or bad aspects. Because under bad Mars aspects, doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, what are you? You're pushy, nervy, gutsy, courageous, enterprising, assertive, aggressive. You take action. You do things. You make things happen. And if you don't make things happen, nothing's going to happen. So using Mars, you know, to take action, using Saturn to take on more work, using Mars to counteract the bad Mars and take the, don't eat the meat, you know, and all that stuff. Watch your diet, but this is all mental now we're on. And so if you use Mars to take action, and persistent Saturn, you don't give up, and if Neptune something falls through, just keep on persisting, keep on having. There are so many, when one door closes, another one opens, you think of that, you know. And sometimes when people lose their job, they get fired or laid off, I said, it's the best thing that could happen to you. Oh, my God, they're in shock. I said, why? Well, look at it this way. Would you have quit? Oh, no, I would never quit that job. I says, well, it's the only way to get you out of there, because you have to look. Maybe 10 years from now, you could have a better job. And so in the long run, it's all for the best. And it's the Jupiter antidote. It's all for the best if you look down at the positive side. So you got fired, so what, or laid off. You just go look for another job. You go, and maybe you need, with Uranus, I tell a lot of people, if the aspect is still going to be in, for another 6 months or a year or so, I tell them to get temporary work, which is Uranus, or freelance work, go into their own business, do something Uranian that's on the constructive side, and that will help use the Uranus energy up, of doing something new, something different. And I said, maybe you need to get in, that's the only way to get you out, to get you into a new field, a new area. And it's just like when there's a shock, a Venus square Uranus, and there's a breakup with a love. I say, well, you're in shock now, you're all upset, and you're in tears, and all that kind of stuff, but look at it this way. What if 10 years from now, you look back and you're with a new person, it's the love of your life, and you're going to say, oh, I'm so glad I broke up with that other person. So you got to watch that attitude of the moment, whether it's a shock, an upset, or whatever it is that comes along. You do something about it, but you have to keep your attitude positive. And it's hard, as I said, with Saturn. And the sun, you could use the sun, be proud of your efforts, when you work hard. Say, gee, I'm proud of all I accomplished in work. You don't have to brag about it, but to yourself you say it, not to others. You say, gee, I'm proud I did this work. I overcame that aspect. I'm so glad, pat myself on the back. I got rid of Saturn on the bad side. I'm using it on the good. Look at how successful I am, and all that. So you talk to yourself and you say good things to yourself. Remember, whatever you put out comes back. Just like when you say something bad about somebody, it's going to bounce back to you. So it's nice to say nice things about other people, because then it will bounce back good to you. If somebody in your life is not good, I tell people, well, bless the person and wish them well. Never wish anybody bad luck or bad or anything bad. I had one client that said, oh, I wished he'd get cancer and die. And I had to give a lecture to her. And he did get cancer and die about 10 years after that. But I mean, that's not nice to say. And then she has bad luck all the time, because she's always saying this and closes every door in business, because you close doors when you do these things. And then you wonder why the door is closed and why people are doing this to you, but you're doing it to yourself. You allowed yourself to act this way. So if somebody does you wrong, I just bless them, wish them well. I wish everybody to have good luck. Sagittarians want the best for everybody, So, I want everybody to have success, luck, money, happiness, everything good. So it's good to always wish that, no matter what the person does to you, because like I said this morning, you don't know what they're dealing with or coping with in their chart or can't cope with, So this helps with your health, and your physical body is keeping this. And you see that Uranus comes along and you get fired from the job. Well, Saturn can keep you in a rut on the job. It's like sometimes I've seen people with Saturn ruling the 6th house. They stay on a job for 20 years. And they can be offered money, good money, to go to another company. And you know what they say? No. Well, I'm going to stay here because I know what this is, but I don't know what that's going to be like. What if I give up this job of 20 years and I go there and they fire me, or I don't like it, or something's wrong with it, and I'm not there anymore? So they're afraid, feared, to take the chance. So they stay put. But as long as they're happy staying put, who cares? They're happy. So let them stay put. But if they're miserable, sometime Uranus may come along and get them out of the rut and make them go into something else, But sometimes, when, as I said, some people say, well, when one window closes, another opens. Some say one door closes, another door opens. So, and it's true. But if you get into a negative rut of thinking you're not going to get another job, this is bad, and all that, and if you go out on a job and you say you want to get hired now they don't online interviews, but if they have, you have to go in person, you may say, oh, well, they're not going to hire me. Oh, you're right. There's, in my money magic book, there's some mental magic that you can do, and that is you look them in the eye and you say, hire me. Mentally to yourself. If you get fired from a job, instead of getting angry with the boss, you say, thank you, you did me a favor, because there's going to be another job, better job somewhere else. That puts a positive thought out, because there will be. And there usually is if you keep thinking positive, you know. So there's all kinds of things. You've got to talk to yourself, and you've got to talk to yourself. As it says, sometimes you have to lie to yourself. But if you're going to lie and you're going to say, oh, everything's going to be fine, well, you've got to, just can't live in a daydream world of everything's going to be fine. You've got to use the Mars and take action. Use Saturn for hard work. Use your planets. Use the sun and take pride in what you're doing a good, conscientious job. Be around cheerful people. You know, if you're around somebody who's negative, they can bring you down, you know. So it's best you can try helping them, but it's not good if you're allowing that person to make you negative. You know, you can cheer them up as much as you can, but some people don't want to help themselves. So what good can you do them? You try the best you can, and that's all you can do. But you try to place with optimistic thoughts too. That will help a lot. And strength of will, which is the sun and the vitality of the sun. If you take that with Mars and use it for taking aggressive action, and you use Venus for being sweet and kind and nice to people, you know, you can get easier hired to get that. But if you go with a bad attitude, you know, on the job for interviews or anything else, they have problems. So there is all kinds of things they can do. But with Mars is afflicted, a lot of people get in hot water because they tell people off. They let off their temper and steam, you know. And then they can be accident prone too, you know, and have accidents, wonder, why did I have that accident, you know? You got to slow down. And look at where you're going and what you're doing, you know. But if you find that you can't use the harmonious side of Mars, there's the moon, you know, help somebody in distress, that's Church of Light teachings, you know. And somebody weaker, there may be a blind person you could help walk across the street, or any handicapped individual. It's nurturing, being nurturing and caring and trying to help other people, whether it's just with words or it's with physical action, but trying to be nice, you know, or taking care of a wounded animal or anything like that. You know, it's being maternal or paternal with people. That is a good antidote to use, you know, the moon. But a lot of times you can try to take action with Mars and be nice and nurturing with the moon. Use both of them. Use all of it. Why not use everything? Throw everything in, all the positive energy in. Of course, it depends upon what aspects you have by progression, because sometimes you don't have all the planets. And progressed aspects are energies. They're desires to do things. So the more aspects you have, the more desires you have. You know, and a lot of times I've seen charts where every planet's been afflicted, you know, and there's been just all kinds of problems, you know, where everything is afflicted and they have trouble handling it. But I have seen those people, 2 years later, they come back and they've been successful. They've done more than the people who didn't do anything, that had all good aspects. The good aspects make you lazy, and you say, well, I don't have to do this, I can sit around, I can goof off. And you know, it's heartbreaking as an astrologer, it's heartbreaking because you can see the potential, and you can see what they can do, and then they don't do it. That's heartbreaking, you know, it's heartbreaking. And then a lot of people do it. You know, some people follow you and some don't, you know. They all do differently. So, anyway, what time is it getting? Am I talking too late? Oh, yeah, I went over time, didn't I?
Just 35 minutes.
Oh, okay, I always go over time. Does somebody have any questions about anything we did? Read the Church of Light books. Read Mental Alchemy. And what else can you read? Mental Alchemy, Personal Alchemy, Occultism Applied to Daily Life. Learn the meanings of the planets on the good and bad side. So if you're going to see you're using one, use the other, or use the antidote. Everybody has to find, I find that conversion is easier for me to use than the antidote. You know, like with Saturn afflictions, I love working and it's play to me. So it may be hard work to somebody, but to me it's play. When you love doing what you do, helping people, you know, and you enjoy what you're doing, you're just happy with it, even though somebody else may think, my God, 14, 15 hours a day slaving away. You just don't feel it. The time just goes, and you say, oh my God, there's not enough hours in the day. Right, Patrick? You know what I mean.
You mean your own Saturn affliction or helping other people?
Either way, it doesn't matter. If your own, I do it with my own, but I do try to help other clients that have the Saturn affliction to do more. But some people, you know, as I say, the Venus antidote, if they don't have the money to go out and socialize, can't do it, but you can try to be sweet. Now, let's say a person had a major Venus-Saturn progression in and they were married and it was with the 7th house. They could appear very cold to their partner. And maybe they think, because it's your attitude toward everything, maybe they think the partner's being cold to them. But maybe the partner isn't. So I tell people, melt the ice. Be sweet. Be kind. Be loving. Give love to the other person. Like, if somebody has a Venus-Saturn square in their natal chart, it's hard for them to say, I love you to somebody. It's very difficult. But when they do say it, they can really mean it. But it's hard because they're fearful of rejection, afraid of losing the person, either through death or through a breakup or whatever. And they use the defense mechanism, which is covering up the feelings, putting their emotions on ice so they don't give of themselves, you know. So when the Venus-Saturn comes in, I say, I don't care how you feel, use your Venus side. Be sweet, kind, loving. And the other person, no matter how cold he may appear, be sweet and kind. And it's done, and it works. It has worked. Because the other person may think, hey, you're being cold. You could be being cold yourself. You know, you've got the Venus-Saturn. Maybe it's you, maybe it's not the other person. It's the way you're acting toward that marriage partner or love affair, whatever house it's with. So you have to melt the ice. And if you're dating somebody and you have that in, and I tell women, well, if the man has it, you got to go melt the ice. Tell the man you got to melt the ice. Be sweet and kind and charming. Melt the ice. And it usually works. And men want what they can't have. Women sometimes want what they can't have. And they want somebody. So sometimes it works in somebody's favor, appearing a little cool if they're not married to you. But if you're married to somebody, you know, and you're not trusting the person and you think they're cold and they're indifferent, you're going to get very negative, you know, and it's not worth it, you know, to get negative when you can be sweet and kind. So because they're antidotes to one another, the Venus-Saturn, it's hard to do it. But I find that if people use the Venus part with a Venus-Saturn aspect, they do much better than if they are rigid or methodic or that. When you give love, you get love. When I buy stamps at the post office, I mail everything out with love stamps. I want to send out love to the world. You know, you want to send love to the world. You want to send love to people. You know, and that brings bounce back at you, you know. That's positive. And that's the best way to be, is trying to be positive. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
There was somebody online that saw the Dr. Kelly book.
Oh, did they?
Online, and it's drkelley.com.
Say that again?
Okay.
Dr. Kelly?
The One Answer to Cancer book.
Yeah, and they DRKE.
L-L-E-Y.
Yep,
Yeah, that's how he spelled his Kelly, yeah, E-Y. It's a wonderful book, and it still works to this day. Still works to this day. Wonderful book, everything in it. I mean, here, I told you all about Dr. Kelly, and then I'm reading you what just came in the mail from somebody sent me from Johns Hopkins. And wasn't it the same stuff that Dr. Kelly was saying? And wasn't some of the same things that we in the Church of Light believe in, the antidotes and the positive thinking and the mind? You know, it all incorporates. So I think that the Church of Light has the answer to everything, just like Dr. Kelly, one answer to cancer. I think we have the answer to a whole lot of things with the Church of Light teachings in the different books. You know, just like the fires that are going on in Texas, the floods that are going on. What is it, Cosmic Alchemy says that a lot of people go at one time because there's too many people on Earth, remember? That's in one of the books. And so I think of that, I mean, it's a tragedy and all that, but if you dwell on it and you get negative, you can bless people and you can put the white light around them and all the positive thinking that you can possibly do. That's the best you can do, is try to put a white light and pray for them and pray for the fires to go and the water to come and get rid of the fires, you know, and all of that stuff. So we got to just stay positive, and the Church of Light has all the answers.